Hello everybody, welcome back to the, I believe, 8th episode of Under the Table. It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you very much everyone for coming out today. And I have, well, what you might be noticing is my guest. He appears to be missing, but he's actually just waiting offside because he's got a little, where's RT? It's a good question. He's got a little surprise for you guys. Do you want to find a funny way of introducing this perhaps?
I mean, I was just gonna go with the literal definition. Like, I'm just hiding under the table. This is the perspective we're going with for like the next 3 to 4 hours. You know.
I thought it would be
just stay down here.
I thought it'd be a very interesting bit of art, you know, like an art from an artistic perspective. Having someone literally be under the table for the episode of Under the Table.
You want me
really
to crouch
funny.
under the table here and we can have a muffled sound, really scuffed audio quality. It's good to be here. I'm just hiding the entire time.
The entire time, I actually wasn't able to get RT for this collab. I actually pretended that I did, and I'm gonna have a TF2 pyro soundboard. So every time I want to pretend that he's speaking, I just play a little sound and my goes laugh. But no.
Oh Jesus!
In actuality, he's got some new drip on. He's looking. I use the AI voice thing. That'd be terrible. Okay.
I believe this is what you kids call a debut. I'm not too familiar with this.
So the way we do outfit reveals is you go little by little. So I'm just gonna kind of slowly eke you out from under the table.
Okay, alright.
He's rising like a volcano.
Help me! I've fallen and I can't get up!
I'm trying, but my hands are shaking.
Everyone feared this day. Everyone dreaded it. You were warned of this moment.
Unfortunately, everybody, I hate to say it, but your favorite, the Drift King himself is no longer a real person. He has become a VTuber with a very faint green outline because I couldn't get the green screen to not cut out the leaves on your head.
No, that's alright, that's alright. It was only a matter of time.
It was only a matter of time before he would lose his humanity and give in to the virtual world. But it's
we joked too many times about this happening on my own stream. Like literally for years, it's been the kind of I've been dropping hints that's it's gonna happen someday. You better be careful.
You never know when the VTuber virus is gonna overtake you. Suddenly, someone starts making jokes about whether or not they're a bottom or a top, and you're like, "Are you?"
Oh no, that's how it starts.
Were you bitten by a VTuber?
I'm sorry.
Because VTubing killed my grandma. Okay. All right.
We lost another one. It takes them all out.
It's a pleasure to have you.
God.
And on this show...
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The first thing that I like to do is to ask, before any other questions, what will you be drinking with us tonight?
I've got a Kraken and Coke. Starting the day strong.
Very nice. He's got a Kraken and Coke. And me personally, because I've been craving it, I went out and I grabbed myself a bottle of champagne. And I'm going to go ahead and
Oh, you're going full on champagne?
Yeah. No,
oh my God.
I like a bit of champagne. And I didn't get...
This is quite the occasion. Happy Friday afternoon.
Happy Friday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know what I'm saying? All right, hold on. Let me try and get this off without it. I've gotten very good at decorking champagne. So let me try and... Hold on. Oh, no. Okay, wait, this one's very firm, actually. Oh, no, wait, I got it.
Yeah, all right there. It just...
Oh, got it.
Oh, that's an actual pop. Jesus, he's not kidding.
Boom. Popped it. Very, very nice. Let me pour that. A little bit of ASMR for everybody. A nice little sparkling champagne sound. Lovely. I've just been crazy.
Oh my God, you can actually properly hear that. That's actually... Oh, I already have a drink, but I want that now.
Oh, maybe you should have popped out. Maybe you should have popped out and grabbed some champagne as well. It was an occasion. I thought it was an occasion.
I'll get some later. It sounds kind of mean to do it that way. It's thank God the podcast is done. But
it's over now. I finally get to go and have my champagne. Jesus.
Oh God.
So, I don't really know where to begin. How has your week been?
I mean, my week has been good. I'd actually just like to do a quick little aside, if that's okay.
Go for it, yeah.
On the model maker front, my end, I would just like to thank. I'd like to thank Soon Sama. She's a artist in my community who kind of made the original sketch of what this model became. I'd like to thank Dandy as well for basically rigging it, and I'd also like to thank Kelly Siren as well for helping me set it all up. And I've stolen her iPad for this stream. just want to get that in just right off the bat. I think that's just important. Because I know a lot of people from my community are probably panicking right now. because they're seeing this, but it's okay. It's gonna be all right. I can see a few of them in chat there. They're scared.
Your Discord or just RT game Twitter is on fire at the moment.
Oh yeah, no, they're probably very concerned.
The apocalypse has arrived.
Like the thing is, because I think people forget this. Because it's a running joke on my streams that's like anime, but like I used to live in Tokyo. I watch anime all the time, right? Like half my friends are VTubers as well. I have a weekly hangout night in VR chat with friends where we have drinks. Like this was inevitable. Like this is a long time coming.
I'm out here collecting flesh tubers like Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones. Just each one another VTuber under my sleeve, growing our ranks, and soon we'll become powerful enough to turn everyone into a VTuber.
No one's safe, yeah. Oh Jesus.
The interesting thing.
Flesh tuber doesn't sound right as a term, by the way. That sounds very upsetting.
I will never stop using flesh tuber because we need to find some way of differentiating and also of placing ourselves above normal YouTubers. We need to feel like we're superior in some way because we take so much shit every other day of the week.
Oh no, this is how we feel good about ourselves. Just please let us have this.
Imagine being confined to the prison of flesh. Not me, I'm a beautiful 2D character. I have no flaws. My skin is completely perfect and I wake up with my makeup done and my hair beautifully conditioned and I will never have to worry about taking a shower ever again.
I think I had a shower in panic just before the stream. I was like, I gotta get ready.
I'm doing a thing. I have to set up.
It's like it's not gonna come out right if I don't do this.
No, it's fair enough. You want to just make sure that your hair's done and maybe your skin looks right, so like the tracking reacts to it. I've very much had like that same level of panic where I genuinely where I used to. Before I started, I used to have a beard, and I wound up shaving it because I was like, I don't want it to like struggle to recognize what my mouth is doing, right? And
no, so no joke actually, because I thought I was the only one who did this. Do you ever just like panic shave before a stream? I do that all the time, where it's like if I'm not clean shaven before I stream, it's like I can't go live. Like I've delayed streams just because I'm not shaven, even if I'm not using a camera, like.
Even if you're not using a camera. Now that's because I would have assumed it's because of like the whole face cam thing. But that is very interesting. I guess this is where we differ because I tend to like always be quite sort of unpresentable like behind the camera. Like when I'm set on a computer, I tend to like if I'm in my room gets really hot, for example, so sometimes I just won't be wearing pants. Sometimes I will usually shower after I've streamed rather than before, so my hair is all messed up. A lot of the time like especially when I first started, I was like sort of streaming so much, like twice a day, that I would like wake up for stream and then go to sleep right after stream. And so I would just sort of, I don't know, I would just kind of lose track of real life. And I was like, I don't need to be clean today. I would like make sure I was clean for the express purpose of, oh, I need to go and do something, rather than, oh, I need to feel clean because I'm doing a thing. I don't know. It was definitely a difficult time, but I guess that's sort of what is rewarded in this kind of an industry, is just being able to fully commit, even if it means kind of losing a little part of yourself.
Oh Jesus! Don't say it like that.
Well, I mean, it's sort of fitting, isn't it? How when you become a virtual character, you do sort of, it's like, it's very different from yourself. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people who are VTubers, they will like just be themselves, but then some other people will permanently be playing a character. And, I think that...
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a essentially kind of difference between the two. Yeah, like, it's just speaking for friends and that, yeah, like, I know a good few, like, they'll swing one way or the other. So I'll be honest, I think I'd be rubbish if I played a character. Like, I can't act for my life. Like, I'm really bad at it. Like, if I'm not myself, then like it just feels wrong. And as I noticed, because like sometimes when I'm at a con, right, like I've had people come up and they'll be like, "Hey, can you record a video for my friend who's like not here," or something like that. And because it's like I'm trying to record it in the moment, my brain just farts and collapses upon itself, and I just can't do it. And it's like there was one that I did one time where it's like I was trying to be jokey. And like they started recording the video with her friend. And I said, "Ah, you bastard, you couldn't be here." And then I said, "No, sorry, wait, don't use that." Because I was trying to make a really bad joke, but my brain just farts when I'm on camera like that, and like the pressure's on, and like it's like I'm trying to do a message or some other task, and it just doesn't work. It's like I'm sorry. Please do not say that to your friend. Let me act like a normal human being for a moment and get this right.
You know, it's a really interesting perspective because I feel as though now you have access to. I'm interested to what it would be like from you, like graduating from FleshTuber to VTuber, or just being.
Stop!
I can't. That's just what's in my brain. That's the term for me.
Stop saying flesh.
Okay. Listen. So like having VTubing as a because at the end of the day, I think that it's become like such a sort of a community like entrenched in so much tradition and stuff like that. We often forget that at the end of the day, VTubing is a tool, and it's something that you can use to make, you know, new and interesting content. And so when what I've sort of used this as a tool to do is that, like, I've gotten a lot more confident with acting. And so something like when I do an ASMR stream is that I'll be able to sort of improv and stuff like that. And I think that having such a beautiful, you know, PNG to express myself through, it tends to like make that aspect of it a lot easier to deal with, and you kind of get to lose yourself in a character a little bit easier. However, what I recently had the luxury of doing was this meet and greet at a con where we were like sat behind a screen and got to meet fans one-on-one.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those. Yeah.
And what happened was a couple of them asked me like, can you say this message for my friend? Can you do this? And when confronted with someone in person, it was like, oh my god, what do I say? Like immediately, like the confidence that you have behind the screen just disappears in an instant. And it's, I don't know, it's, and I guess that must be sort of a part of why you must have found it so difficult, is like, that when things become more personal, there isn't like the VTuber's degree of separation from the audience. It's like, you know, person to person, face to face, suddenly, you know, you feel like, I do, yeah, chat, I become strangely shy. And I think it's just, I don't know.
Exposed.
Like... No, I'm sorry. I'm not all confident all the time. I'm actually a fucking wee babby. And when confronted with a person who asks me to say something I would normally say on stream, I suddenly become like, yeah, happy birthday. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. You know, and then I just...
Like, that's the thing. It's weird because, like, I mean, we're in a very weird position where, like, we're basically introverted performers is how I would describe what we do. Where it's like we're live all the time for people, but we're also probably like shockingly shy, like actually in person the entire time. And it's I struggle to make like a basic phone call if I need to, like, you know, like just ask about a bill or something. But it's like going live, and it's like there's thousands of people there. It's like, yeah, no problem, I can do that. It's like,
it's definitely like really difficult because for me, like I would definitely consider myself an extrovert and I love being around people, but I'm always like, I've always been very shy when it comes to actually like sort of initiating contact with people, and it becomes so difficult to sort of go out of my way to say, hey, I would like to, like, hey, what's up? Like at a party, I'm having a great time and I'm being so like out there and chatting with people if someone else has come up to me. But if I don't know anyone at a party, I'm that guy who's like sat in the corner, his legs crossed in a chair, just sipping a drink. I can't, you know, I can't just randomly go up and make friends. It's terrifying.
Like my strategy at most parties or like social gatherings like that is to see if there's like a games console or something hooked up in the corner, and then it's like, right, who wants to play Smash Bros?
Yes!
For the next 4 hours? And that's what, just like, let's go. Like that's all we need.
Who wants to get some friendlies going? God, I wish I had been to a party where there was like a GameCube or a Switch hooked up in the corner that I could just sit on and be like, hey guys, does anyone want to challenge me? And then, you know, that sort of is a bit of an icebreaker. But like, I don't know, the idea of going up to someone in a bar and being like, hey, do you fancy a drink? Like, I just, God,
like, what?
It makes me feel sick.
Over the music.
What?
Can't hear you.
Would you like a drink? What? It's like, I would just give up at that point. The idea of that happening is so terrifying. It's worth it for me to just not try at all.
Yeah, no, I get that sentiment. Like, it's weird. It's always like a surreal disconnect between like the real world and, let's say, even saying that, like the real world and this, like, because to me, like, you know, like, no offense meant by this, but like, this is all fake. This is just a fake, like, imaginary dreamland we're living in at the moment. Like, none of this is real.
None of this is real, chat. You're in a simulation and you need to wake up. The world
You'll
ended
have to
6
wake
years
up.
ago. The Matrix is real. Oh god, I sound like Logan Paul now. The Matrix is real. Don't become its victim. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh Jesus!
Oh Jesus Christ!
We're in danger. I think a lot of people here can relate to that though, because I think it is the kind of thing, like, just people who are active on the internet and that. I mean, there's a reason we're active on the internet. It tends to be because we're a bit more introverted and we like shy away from things a bit more. You know, like I know I have some friends who are like the most outgoing people, like both online and offline, and it's like shocking to me how they do it. But I think a lot of us just kind of we just do this and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, I think.
It's sort of, I mean, I guess what I feel about
Escapism.
Escapism, there you go. I guess what I feel about streaming, especially when it comes to like the kind of personalities that get drawn to it, is like, for example, I've not really had that many jobs before I started streaming. Like for me, I had like a couple jobs in the service industry, and they never really went very well because I struggle to keep track of stuff. I forget stuff. You know, like I just, you know, it's the kind of thing where a customer will be like, "Hi, can you get me thing?" And I'll be like, "Yes, I can definitely get you thing." I turn away and I forget that customer even exists. And
oh no.
So sometimes I sort of wonder, you know, if streaming did not exist, and if having these sort of, you know, having this career didn't exist, what would I be doing? I wonder if like there would be much else sort of left for me, at least in sort of like a normal career, you know, that most people would be getting.
God. Yeah, I mean, like the existential dread is there. It's like, well, YouTube and Twitch go tomorrow. It's like, well, so what can you do? It's like, well, I play some games online somewhat myself. No, I mean, I actually know where I was going, because it's actually a very real story that happened to me, because I was gearing up to teach English in Japan, sure.
Oh,
before,
really?
Yes, no, I lived in Tokyo in 2018. And it got to the point where it's like I loved doing YouTube and like basically Twitch since I started 2011. Like, I've been doing this too long, and it was like 2018 at this point, like 7 years on, and it's like kind of doing okay, but it's like not enough for like full-time career. And I was gearing up to basically just, okay, like I'm leaving behind being online forever, basically. I'm just gonna be purely a hobby. And it got to the point where I literally had my teaching interview lined up in Japan. Just to teach English there, and it was literally that week where videos just suddenly spiked, and I did a very stupid thing where I skipped the job interview. Very, very reckless. Like it was stupid of me to do that. But because I did that, I got very lucky then, because I was able to dedicate all my time on YouTube and Twitch, and then it really took off then. So I very much probably would have just been teaching English in Japan if this didn't work out. Like I kind of know that that's where I'd probably be. But before that, I worked as a postman of all things.
Oh my God.
I used to walk like 20 kilometers a day, and I had like a huge trolley of just like parcels that I'd have to just wheel across Dublin. It was the best shape I was ever in my life, because I'd have to push like pretty much like my entire body weight at the start of the day and just go around. Like I was supposed to be in a van working with someone, but basically what that meant is he kicked me out of the van at 9 a.m. and picked me up at 5. And
so
I just
you
had
were
to
just
walk
walking.
all day. I just walked all
God.
day. I just walked all day, like up and down Dublin, and it was exhausting work, because it was just like I'm constantly wheeling these parcels and also working out where to deliver everything. So I mean, those are the two ways it would have gone if it wasn't for ye old playing games on the internet. And I'm quite thankful for this one, because it's a bit more fun than that.
Yeah,
in my personal opinion.
It's definitely a lot more fun than being a postman. The only job that I can speak to having that I think is funny to talk about is for a little while I worked in like this. It wasn't quite a museum. It was like a sort of a tourist trap kind of thing, where it's like,
okay,
it was sort of like a Regency era kind of museum, but kind of not. Didn't have any real artifacts, but was full of facts and stuff. And all the employees in there have to dress like a character, and so I would stand behind the ticket till, and I would wear like a petticoat and riding boots and like those big sort of Regency era pants you'd see in Pride and Prejudice, and I would just.
So this is all set up for your current job. I'm taking.
And I would just have to be like, "Hello, everyone. Welcome here. Would you like a ticket?" and all of that kind of stuff. And like I think I worked there for maybe like 4 shifts total before I just gave up, because it was like it was interesting and I did enjoy it, but I was so bad at it. I was just forgetting shit left and right, and I feel, I don't know, lucky, very much like so lucky that I've been able to kind of fall into this line of work where you can afford to not be very well put together, and you can sort of manage to get through it. Even all you have to do is be funny and be entertaining, and that's kind of all you need, you know. Or at
so least we're wildly improvising, like.
Yeah, just something like that.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of the one thing that any of us in like this field can contest is like Jesus Christ, we're very lucky.
Oh God,
Because,
yeah.
you know, like very thankful for what we do. Like just in the day to day, like I can speak for like all my friends there in this industry.
It's what I often find is interesting is like the just the random sort of like that one event that you had that led you to where you are, and you sort of think about how unlikely it was that this would be where you are. Like for me, when NIJISANJI put out their auditions for male talent, what would become my wave Luxiem, I did not know what NIJISANJI was. I wasn't even basically all that happened was one of my friends, like I think her husband was a fan of VTubers and said, "Hey, your friend should apply for this," and they sent me this, and I was like, "Huh."
Oh wow!
I was like, "Interesting."
So it's very much just here's a recommendation.
Here's a recommendation.
Give this a go.
And then suddenly I get in here, and suddenly I'm just that it's just this big. There's just this big thing. Yeah, it was you might notice I have this little character hanging off my belt. It was this guy. It was this guy who sort of was like, "Yo, you should try this out," and I gave it a go. And I had no idea how huge of a community this was. I had no idea how sort of full of tradition it was. I had no idea what any of this was like. And suddenly I'm getting used to a Japanese corporate environment. Suddenly I'm sort of dealing with like being a recognizable personality. It was pretty nuts. And I owe it all to that little man. And I don't know, like, what was it that led you to start making content? Because it's a big leap from just enjoying games in your spare time.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, so because I would have started when I was 16, like, because I started in 2011, and it was literally just like me and like my friends, like Stuart and Zach back then. We just watched a lot of Yogscast. That's more or less what it was, and like we saw them playing Minecraft and that, and we were just like, that looks fun. And so we were just like, let's give it a go. So we did like a let's play of Terraria back then. And then I think the big thing that kind of like helped me kind of come into my own is like back then and even now I watched a lot of German 985. And I remember watching him like just when he started, and he did a lot of TF2 commentaries. And so I was like, you know what, team, like this game looks really fun. I'm gonna try play that. And so, like, on top of just playing games with friends over the years, I kind of branched more into doing a lot more solo stuff, specifically with TF2. And I did solo stuff with TF2 for, I mean, pretty much 7 years. So, like, the hat I've got now, like, it's from TF2. It's the neckwear headwear.
Of course.
So it's kind of, like, stuck around since then. And, like, that was kind of, like, one, like, the starting points. It was literally just, like, a hobby after school. Is how I would just describe it. Like every day I would just try and get all my homework done, and it's like, okay, I'm making a video, and it's like I just really enjoyed it. Like my parents were always kind of worried that I was pursuing it, because it's like aren't you gonna spend your time, you know, joining clubs or that after school or doing anything else? Because I was just constantly at the computer, just like making videos and stuff like that. I was like, no, like I really like this. But it's kind of where it started, and it's like I just kept it up even through all of college, and then it would have been 7 years later when it's like I got my break. I would like to think, Jesus. And I got very lucky. So like, it took a long time. Like I think the video that like really kicked it off for me was I had one where I just killing people in The Sims, basically, just torturing people. Like it was great.
That was how I discovered you. The first video that I watched of yours was, and I've told when I told my chat about the fact that we were doing this collab, I told them about the first one. It was the City Skylines poop volcano.
Oh,
that
Jesus.
And it was just such an incredible idea. And I think that like it's incredible because it's like you're sort of, I'm not sure too much like what your TF2 content was like sort of before you really had like your big break, but I think that you're so good at that genre of finding a way to completely break a game and, you know, figuring out some mechanic, like in City Skylines, for example, how sewage is a physical liquid that gets dumped somewhere in the world, and be like, what do I do with this? All right, these people in this city, they have a limited amount of time to live. Every time they go to the bathroom, they are sealing their fate, and then to have the Country Roads music at the end, like the comedic timing and everything, it's incredible.
I mean, I can explain that a bit, like if you want me to. Like, I know for a few so background for like just playing games like that. There was a college society. Shout out to actually, yeah, shout out to the Sci-Fi Society in good old Trinity. But like when I used to be heavily involved in that college society, and I was like my title was the Games Master because I got to organize all the games events. No joke, that was my actual title. There was Games Master, which was great.
That sounds like a Scott Pilgrim character. That's amazing. I would love having that title.
It was my actual title there because I was on the committee. I was like organizing events. But through that, a lot of the time in sci-fi, we like to just take the piss. Like some of our most fun like times that we had is we just come into the room and it's like, oh, what you doing on the console there? It's like, I'm seeing if I can kill everyone in Oblivion by punching them to death. And it's like, fantastic. Let's go. That sounds amazing. And we just did a bunch of stuff like that. Like we played some games blindfolded. We would play like stupid stuff in Smash Bros. Like I had a this sounds quite bad when I say it this way, but I had an underground amiibo gambling ring. Now it was completely legit, and I know it was legit because we had to actually check the books and make sure I wasn't going to get kicked out of college for doing this. That's how I know it was very much legit. But we had a Smash Bros event where basically I had a bunch of amiibo. I trained them to have a bit of personality, and we watched them fight, and we basically played with poker chips and bet on them. There was no actual money involved, so no actual gambling took place. But we just did a bunch of fun stuff like that. Yeah, so my underground amiibo gambling ring is like partly like where it all comes from, just like experimenting with games. It's wild. The other thing that would help though, I know for just a lot of my content in general, in particular with TF2, because I love TF2, but not a lot happens. Not a lot happens. And like sometimes like it's a quiet day on the server. And I know from streaming TF2 for 7 years. Well, not streaming TF2 for 7 years. I would have streamed it like 3 years or something like that. But I know from even streaming at that length of time is the most fun thing was always to try and get people involved and kind of play off your audience, if you will. And so there was always like kind of just like a very much a back and forth. And I think even in a lot of those early Cities videos, like that's part of it because like I would just antagonize my chat a lot of the time, and it's like if someone makes a suggestion, like I'll do something that's 10 times worse, and that just kind of comes from those TF2 days as well. It's just something that I very much just kind of enjoy because it's funny, and it's like we're just messing about with a game. There's no serious stakes here. I just always thought it was fun to play games like that.
It's incredible, and it's so brilliant how funny all of that turned out to be, and just
you're too kind.
Oh no, it was just like such an incredible kind of little corner of content to discover, especially for me because during lockdown, City Skylines was my game. That was like all I was playing. I was just there. Every single time I would boot up City Skylines, I'd be like, this city, this is gonna be the one. And then inevitably, I have no idea how to manage traffic, and then the hearses can't take the dead bodies away. The dead bodies make people sick. The sick people the sick people can't go to hospital. The sick people can't go to hospital, so they die. The dead people get more people sick, and suddenly, because I didn't build my roads right, every single person in the city is dead. I remember, like, and I was in the background on, like, my other monitor, I was watching your City Skylines videos being like, well, at least it's not going as poorly as whatever the fuck is going on over there.
So can I make a confession even on that note? Like,
yeah?
There are many of those, like, where it's city with disastrous consequences streams where it's like, I genuinely tried to get it right. And, like that's, like, the worst thing. Like, there's so many of them where it's like, no, like, I really tried to get this city working and everyone is just dead. Like, so many times. There's one, I think, where we made, like we tried to replicate Dublin, and I really tried to kind of get the transport infrastructure, like, right. But there comes a point where it's just not working, and I get frustrated that I then build, like, a road wrong. I think in this case was we built a motorway that was, like, about 1.5 kilometers in the sky. Now, and any city planner is going to tell you, that's not a good idea. And it turns out they're right, because it's like the moment you build the 1.5 kilometers high in the sky motorway, it's like, oh god, everything's starting to go wrong now. But it's up until that moment, I do genuinely try sometimes. Even in my off time, like, because I play a lot of City Skylines in my off time. And whenever I try and properly sit down and make a city, everyone just dies. Like I feel like I'm cursed playing the game, and I genuinely try.
I think it's like, because I've always found this is like the game itself, like figuring out where like land value and sort of where you would place sort of amenities and where you would zone stuff, like that all makes perfect sense, and it's kind of easy to understand. Like residential, don't put industrial near residential because of the pollution. Make sure you keep that in its own area. Do this, do that. But something about the traffic system is so complex to the point where it almost, like, it must, like, resemble real traffic systems, to the point where if you build roads like where you, like I'm used to in the UK, where the roads are just sort of built around, you know, like a historical city that's existed for 2,000 years, but Jesus. In city skylines, you would grow to, like, high-density population where you've got massive skyscrapers everywhere with these tiny little roads. Suddenly, you would need to completely rearrange your entire city, or everyone in the city is going to die. And there's also, like, having to sort of pick which junctions have traffic lights and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know how anyone playing these games has any idea how to make that work. And I've tried watching so many guides to explain, this is how you do your traffic, this is this, use one-way roads, use this, use that. And I keep trying
It's impossible.
It never works. It never works.
Like, it's a completely different game, like, I'm convinced they're playing. And because it's the first thing you do as well, where it's like, you have to lay the road, and then you set everything else. If you get the road wrong, it's like, oh yeah, like, this roundabout would be nice with this residential neighborhood. It's a shame everyone's gonna die in 14 months. And it's like, what? Like, that's not what I wanted.
The people of this city are walking into a death trap. They don't know what's about to happen.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's like, you got the roundabout wrong. Like, well, the industry sector is never going to take off now, and everyone's going to be homeless in 6 months. You caused this with your roundabout. It's like, I just want to place a road.
I'll just sit there, and I'll just be relaxing. I've got, like, something else on my other monitor. I'm like, oh man, this city's going great. And then suddenly I'll check the traffic report, and there is one road that is red as hell, and then every other road is completely unused. And I'm like, what? What's going on? And then I look over at the industry. No jobs in the industry. None of it's being worked. The industry buildings get abandoned. You have to start demolishing the industry buildings. Suddenly you look over at the commercial sector. No one is working in the industry sector. No one has any money to spend in the commercial sector, and so everything in the commercial sector closes down as well. And then also on top of that, because the roads are bad, everyone in the residential area is just dying of plague. And
like, that's the thing. And it's like, it gets to this point where it's like, I have to, like, destroy half the city to try to salvage the rest of it, because once you upend the roads, it's like, well, everything's destroyed now.
Once you get rid of the roads, the zoning disappears. So you're just walking up to these people's houses and being like, I'm very sorry that you and your entire family are sick. We will, however, need to destroy your home in order to save the future of the city. I'm sorry, but this is just what we have to do. Exactly. It's
so grim.
Thanos mindset. Destroy half the population for the good of the other half.
My number one hope, my number one hope for City Skylines 2, which I saw
that. I never thought we'd see the day. I'm so excited. It's gonna
be so good. I know. I'm genuinely so excited. Like I've got two hopes for it. Like, number one is, hey, can we rework roads without, like, killing everyone?
Please.
Like, please. I'm sorry about the roundabout. Like, 100,000 people don't have to die because of my roundabout. I think the other one would be liquid physics. Because I know that the water is just made of jello currently. Yeah. And I'm hoping it runs a bit smoother, because I've noticed that every time I try to reroute, like, a canal or something, it's just like the jello is seeping downstream.
Just this very strange, slow-moving water simulation. You're just like, I wonder why it's moving that way. Also, I'm very amused that this would then obviously immediately lead to a completely different scenario playing out with the poop volcano. So you might actually just have to try that again in City Skylines 2 and see if it plays out differently.
That's it. This is a hilarious bit of feedback, because I'm good friends, like, kind of with a rep from Paradox. And I know at one point for the liquid physics, because I talked to him about that, where it's like, yeah, like, doing the poop volcano and that, I noticed the liquid physics were a bit rough. And there was a moment in the conversation, I was like, okay, I'll pass that on to the team. Maybe we can do something in future. But it's like, just imagine, like, if the scenario is like, I'm approaching the game devs here, it's like, hey, my residents' shit is not flowing properly through my city. I was wondering if the devs could look into that. At which point my friend's like, yeah, okay, no, we'll keep an eye on that. It's like the most, like, fucked up request.
Yes, we're very, very sorry, sir, that your poop simulation is not working quite how you intended. We'll definitely take a look at that, and we'll try to factor that in.
We'll work that out later.
I think, if anything, like, that's one of the most hilarious sort of... Because everyone who's in this career began this job as being someone who just sat in their room and played video games a lot.
Absolutely.
And then when you sort of get your big break, you become successful. You know, for you, it was finding your videos that sort of hit the algorithm, and then you sort of started blowing up, and people sort of, you know, recognized your humor, and you kind of developed like, an audience. Well, and for me, it was like hitting the audition and sort of becoming this, and like being a part of this wave that was going to wind up making waves. You know, no pun intended. I think that what we realize is that very suddenly you sort of get planted in a really adult environment, like a really corporate environment, and suddenly everything starts to feel really odd. Like, when you're on a small scale, making videos like that feels like so normal. But then for you, thinking about like, okay, I would love to suggest this to the City Skylines people, and then you have this boardroom full of Paradox developers being like, can we improve the shit simulation? I had this.
It's like the worst.
The worst read of the situation. So I had this earlier this year where, because I'm kind of well known for doing ASMR, I got approached for a sponsorship opportunity to promote shower heads. And the way that this Japanese, or I'm not sure which, I believe the company itself is Japanese. They wanted me to promote these 3 shower heads. And what they wanted me to do in order to promote these shower heads was to record and edit an ASMR scenario with like, listener is in the shower with you, or you sort of do this, and whatever it was. And so they asked me to make these, and then what they said is their board of directors were going to listen to them and figure out which shower head each one related to the best. And so I sat there and I was like, well, sure. And I made like these 3 little sort of audio dramas, all shower themed. And then I have to imagine that all of these like Japanese sort of salarymen were sat around like a boardroom table listening to them with these drama CDs going on and being like, yes, the one where he's slightly more aggressive with the listener. This would go well with the Jetstream shower head and all of that.
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
he's
stuff.
more sensual in this one.
Right. And it was so weird
How
to imagine that happening.
that?
And then when I actually did the stream where I sat there and it was like, play the ASMR scenario, and then after that, sit there and like promote the showerhead and be like, I hope you enjoyed. So this showerhead is called the Bubble Jetstream showerhead, and this one is very good for having a more intense feeling or whatever it is. And then I do this, and bearing in mind, while I do this stream, I'm actually in Japan, in the office, in NIJISANJI offices, and so what happens is I finish this sponsored stream where I sit there and I use this like weirdly intimate ASMR to promote a product. I walk out of the little streaming booth and there are like 5 managers there, all bowing, being "Otsukare-sama deshita, otsukare-sama deshita," as me after.
Oh my!
And it was that moment that I just sort of sat and appreciated. I was like, what the hell? What have I gotten myself into?
That's just so weird.
It's so weird. I mean, I love doing it.
Amazing,
it was so much fun, and I had to appreciate, because I used to like dabble a little bit in like sort of audio dramas, scripted stuff before I like sort of, you know, managed to actually find a career for it. Like, I had a friend who was like, you should try doing that, and I was like, sure. And I just kind of did it for myself, like to be like, oh, you know, I can write a story and then read it out and sort of edit it in a way, and then to do that for a big audience, for a corporate client, and then to have all of these like aging Japanese salarymen to be like, oh, wonderful, oh, you did such a fantastic job playing that ASMR, and being embarrassed the entire time. I was
oh
like,
my
great,
God.
you know, it was such a strange experience, but so sort of telling of like how much this sort of sector is changing, and how new it is as well, like, and how
it's crazy
when you have corporations involved. Like, a lot of them are people who have been involved in different industries in the past, and like, to imagine someone who might have been involved in maybe film on TV adapting to whatever the hell is going on with streaming is kind of hilarious in a weird way.
I mean, it is like it's because you have to. It's a completely different like kind of field, and like you have to even think differently about how you approach things. Like, again, like you sponsor you being associated with like these 3 different shower heads. Like, it sounds so outlandish. But it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I can see a world where it's like you just being like, oh yeah, this one will really clean you up good. like that will sell the product. That will sell the product. I can see that world.
Apparently, after the stream, they sold out, so it makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. Like, I can see it. Like, oh god, that's so fucking wild.
It's really weird. It's really, really weird. But I mean, that's life, you know. Just sort of getting used to the things that come around, and yeah.
I think in being involved with Sponsor Mind, I think the craziest one I had is I had one for power washing sim where they basically just wanted to give me an actual power washer and basically just fuck around in an alley was basically the premise for the sponsor. And it's like, yeah, we just want to give you this like powerful industrial cleaning equipment and just have fun. Like, we'll teach you how to use it properly so you don't, kill yourself or burn off your skin. But it's like, just have fun with it. And like, even that was kind of crazy. Because I remember even talking to the rep when we were recording that one, where it's like, because the rep very much like kind of like, they knew my content and they kind of got my sense of humor. And I remember as we were recording that, like, they were asking me like, we had this mannequin that became like a character. It was just a mannequin in the alley, and I started calling him Jerry, and I gave Jerry a bat in that. And it's like, we started doing horrendous things to Jerry as we brought him around the alley. Like, we started like ferrying him on a bike and giving him like a little bicycle ride up the alley. But the rep from behind the scenes, while all that sponsor was going on, like, started asking me, hey, for the next scene, could you bash Jerry's head in with a guitar? Because there was a guitar in the alley, and she was just like, yeah, just bash his head in with the guitar. And even I was like, I don't know if I should do that.
What the fuck does bashing his head in have to do with a power washer?
That's the thing. I don't know. But this is the field we live in. Like, that's the thing. It's just like, yeah, we just wanted to be entertained. If you could just bash his head in with a guitar. And I didn't do it because I was worried the guitar would splinter and like hurt me.
I'd be scared too. I don't want to. Also, guitars are expensive. I don't want to destroy one of them. Just
no. So full disclaimer here. This is like a derelict guitar.
Oh,
like,
fair enough.
Like, for the trash. Yeah. So like this isn't like like a state of the art like brand new one.
Okay. So we're dealing with something that would have been destroyed soon anyway. But still,
yeah.
It's just.
But
I guess
wild.
The interesting thing about that is like it's an interesting concept, but how do you fill up, like, I don't know how long that stream was going to be. How do you fill up that much time just fucking around with a power washer in an alleyway and just blasting Jerry with a powerful jet of water?
So that's the thing, like, because I think it was like a 4-hour stream in the end, which is like a long time to be power washing. Like come the outside that's like aftermath of that stream, like, we were exhausted.
Oh yeah.
Because we were just there the entire time, and it's like I did a very silly thing as well for a joke, just to try and get a picture afterwards. Where I was actually wearing a full suit under my power washing suit, because of course it was. This is like a 3-piece suit. Like we're not half-assing this suit. And it was exhausting work, but we somehow managed to make it work. Like, it was myself and 2 friends. And like it is just kind of wild, like the stuff that like kind of people come up with now for like working in the industry. Like, I know there was another one where it's like we were like promoting like a Tom Clancy movie, and the idea was like, we're gonna play a stealth game in real life, and we're gonna just instruct a guy over radio comms to do whatever you say for like 3 or 4 hours. Which is just like,
4 hours?
It's like, yeah, and it's like I mean, that sounds brilliant. I'm not entirely sure how this relates back to Tom Clancy and this specific movie. Like, but it's like, sure, let's go for it. This sounds great. But it's so weird. Like, there's a bunch of just like weird opportunities that kind of come up with this industry, and it's very just outside the box. As like, if you look at it in any other field, it'd be like, what the fuck are they doing over there? But like here, it's like, that makes complete sense. Like, yes, that's perfect.
God, that's
wild.
That's so wild. I mean, I thought the showerhead one was weird, but like, I would be so. Also, it's like, it's an interesting thing because like I haven't really had much IRL experience because obviously as a VTuber you're very limited in what you can do when it comes to like that kind of content. But like having a little bit of a background in filmmaking, like being sort of quote unquote on location, and like having like a producer there and having like a group of people who are making it happen and everything, it's so tiring. And having to do that for like and be live for like 4+ hours, that's insane. And what you must have been sweating half to death with like a suit underneath the power washer suit.
Yeah, my shirt was completely damp by the end of it. There was so much sweat. Like,
he emerges looking like he's been power washed himself.
Like, it honestly felt like that. Like, I was just exhausted after we finished the power washing stream. It's like, I need to sit down a while. Because we were just on our feet, and like, you know, like, it doesn't sound that bad. Because like, you know, like, we're just on our feet for 4 hours, you know, like anyone like working in like most industries, like, you know, that's pretty common. You work in a service industry, like, yeah, you're on your feet like that long each day sometimes. You know, it's just like, it's being on your feet and just like also trying to be entertaining, and then also vaguely trying to power wash this alley and clean it. Like make sure that you're putting on a show somehow with this rather mundane cleaning activity. You know, it was just exhausting. Like, it was really fun. Like, I love it. I would happily, I'll do that again in a heartbeat. Like, shout out to the power wash sim guys, because like they're so lovely to work with. Like, they're so chill. You know, if albeit maybe a bit psychotic, because they were asking me to bash the head in with a guitar a lot.
Yeah, there's something to be examined there, but I'm glad that you found some fun in it in the end.
Like, they're so good. Like they're such lovely people. Like, honestly. But like, it's weird the opportunities that kind of come up in this industry, and it just sounds so bizarre. Like, because I check in with my mum every now and then. Just for like in regards to like YouTube stuff and that, because God love her, it's all beyond her. Like, she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand what any of this is. Like, she doesn't even really understand. Like, so like they pay you to watch the videos. Like, that's her kind of like understanding of how the internet works. You know, she's just a different generation. You know, there's no offense meant by it. But like whenever she checks in, it's like, it's like, Daniel, like, I saw your latest stream, and it's like, you put a baby in a blender. It's like, yeah, no, I did, Mum. I try and explain this one. And it'll be like, understand that, yeah, so I saw you had a bat in your suit and raised money for charity. It's like, yep, yeah, I did, Mum. It's like, it's just beyond her. You know, like, God love her. But I imagine that's what it's like for just a lot of people. But it's fun, you know. That's like the main takeaway from it. I would say, and I kind of love about it. Like, it's very bizarre, but it's very fun. You know, I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, I'd love how like kind of almost stupid it is at times. Like, it's just so entertaining.
It can become like sort of almost like a double-edged sword to imagine like the humor in how different it is, but also like trying to explain to people what the hell is going on.
Like, they don't understand it.
I have the same. It's not really the same thing. Like, you know, bless my mum. She's always like, she likes to pop in on my streams every now and again, because obviously it's like once you're out of the house and they sort of want to keep in touch with you. If you're streaming and you're online, your parents can tune in whenever they want to be like, oh, I wonder how my son is doing. And very recently for Mother's Day, I went home to visit my mum. And she sort of, and every now and again, she'll be like, we'll be finishing conversation. She says, yeah, fuck me, like you like to say on stream. And I'll be like, okay. Like, she's trying to bully me for how verbose and how, how vulgar I am on stream, which is like, okay. But surprisingly, I think a lot of them get it. Like, especially my dad, when it comes to like me sort of doing ASMR and stuff, like he doesn't watch it, but he knows like kind of the angle with that sort of content, and he's like, son, I wouldn't enjoy it myself, but I see what you're doing, and as a businessman, I think you're doing very, very well. And like, that's kind of all I get from my dad, who is like, he's a very, very old man, and he's sort of, and he, you know, he's been in the business sector for a long, long time, and so it's really interesting to sort of have like, especially with parents, it's so interesting like how when you first start in this whole thing, like you would have experienced this as well, they see it as like random little hobby. And then instant that money comes in, they're like, oh, I see. Oh, well, carry on then. You know, you go on.
Yeah, like, I mean, it just, for me, because when it took off for me, like, I was in Japan. And I was just very far away from, like, my family. Like, I was living there, like, I think it was, like, 10 months of the year, basically. And it was specifically, I remember when I came back, and I had that talk with my parents where it's like, guys, like, I think this is a full-time job now, and like I showed them like the numbers and stuff like that, and they were like, holy shit, like, what happened over there? And it was like very surreal for them, even as parents, because like, yeah, I've been doing it 7 years at that point, you know, and it was very much, it always was a hobby. But then like, I come back from Japan, it's like, oh my god, like, he's doing this like full-time serious. And I remember even then, it's like, I had like a sponsor, I think it was with Square Enix lined up by the time I got back. And even they were looking at that. It's like, holy, like, oh my god, those are the guys who make those games you play. And it was like kind of at that moment that it sunk in for them. It's like, oh no, this is something very different now. You know, and I think it can be difficult for parents to kind of come out of that shell sometimes. And you know, I think it just comes from a place of care more than anything, because like, you know, parents worrying about their children, it's just like, hey, we just want to make sure you don't starve someday, and you know, you have income and shit. And we just want to make sure, you know, you're provided for and secure. You know, which is very much where they're coming from. And it's like, it's almost like a shocking realization. It's like, oh no, that hobby that they were doing now, it's like, that's actually enough to like for a quite viable and like career. It can be hard for them to kind of change that lens, because I know even with my parents, like God love them, you know, like just out of care and that, but like a lot of the time when I was making like videos and that as a hobby, they'd be like, you're spending too much time on the computer, you need to go outside, you know, all like, the things that parents say, like that's what they always say, and like, you know, they're absolutely right in saying it, you know, they're just worried about your well-being. But it's just like adjusting that mindset, especially when it's like, it's such like an alien world to them. It can be quite tricky, but it's also very sweet, because like I know that although my mom and dad probably still don't really understand what I'm doing, because they don't, like they just have like, it's an alien world to them, but they're very supportive of it, and I know that, and it's like, that's it, like that's fine, as long as you're supportive of it, as long as you know that like I'm not going to starve tomorrow, that's grand, that's all I need.
Just go. I definitely appreciate that, like, you know, when you sort of tell your parents like Mom, Dad, I'm going to make a living out of playing video games online, and they'll be like, all right, son, all right, let's get you to bed, all right. But then suddenly when things do start to take off, like they really will, like, what they care about is not what you're doing. What they care about is whether or not it's going to be good for you as a person.
Yes.
And
I mean, and it's their right as a parent to just worry about you in that way. Like they just want you happy and secure, you know?
One of the funniest things for me is the fact that like my dad very much was like, it's just a hobby, son. Like don't you know, don't get too distracted with it and everything. Like, you know, you need to focus on your career and stuff. And then suddenly when it becomes big, he's very interested in what I'm doing. And what I hear is he's telling all of his friends, specifically, he's such a dad because he's telling his friends A, at the pub, and B, at the golf course. So he tried to tell one of his oldest friends about it, saying like, yeah, so my son is doing this thing with like he's called a VTuber, where it's like, you know, you've got software that sort of tracks your face, and his friend is like, so is it like an animation? Are they gonna draw it while he's live? And they're like, and he's like, well, no, like, he told me that. I was like, how would that work? And like the amount of times he tries describing what I do and like where the money comes from, and like his friends will just be like, but what is it? Like what does he actually do? He's like, well, he plays games and like and chats with people online, and they send him, you know, messages that have money in them, and they're like, but what? Like, what does it mean?
People
like,
play him.
Yeah, people
pay him to play the games.
The games. I'm like, well, why? Like, why do they play? Because he's funny, and it's like, why would they pay him if he's funny? And it just sort of goes on like that. Like, it's so new, and it's so weird that it's so new, because it feels like such an incredible culture to us that like we must have grown up around, right? Like when, you know, like you mentioned the Yogscast earlier. I was a huge Yogscast fan back in like 2011, 2012 when they were doing the Jaffa Factory and they were doing all of that kind of stuff. I used to keep up with every single video they did, and that was our culture. You know, that was us sort of, you know, where our parents would have grown up with different entertainment. We grew up with that, and that felt so normal to us. And so when we have to when this, you know, then we have to appreciate how brand new it is, and how, you know, those who came before us are like, what the hell is going on with any of what you're doing? But that's what we grew up with, and it's, I mean,
absolutely, like, because like none of this, like, because we forget it sometimes, but even like 10 years ago, like there would have been like 50 people or something like that would be making like a career online, and like that was literally it. Like, I remember, like, God, it would have been, like, I think 2012, where it's, like, Yogscast celebrated being the most subscribed channel in the world with 1 million subscribers.
Weren't they? The Yogscast was the biggest channel in the world.
Well, you know, they were at one point. They were the first channel, I think, to ever hit 1 million. There's some very awkward pictures of them back in the day. It's like a launch party in Vegas, I think it was.
I can't imagine Lewis and Simon heading a party in Vegas. They just seem like they'd be really out of place.
Like it was a very different time, because like they didn't know how to celebrate it, you know. They were just two guys living in like England, and it's just like, oh well, this is just blowing up massively, and people love Minecraft now, and I guess we like hugely popularized it for a lot of people. like it was an insane time, and like I think even like we forget just how new this all is. Like even in the last 5 years, like the landscape has changed massively. You know, because I can say it's like even back in my day,
back in my day,
like starting in 2011 and
you
stuff,
young whippersnappers wouldn't know.
Like there was no such thing as a VTube. Like it just wasn't a thing online. I'm trying to think even of some of the like the starting points for that would be. Like I'm hard pressed to have any names come to mind right now. But like it's all just so brand new. And the thing is, like even if we think it's kind of like wild now, it's like in 5 years time, like, it's going to be even crazier. Like we just don't know where it's going to end up. I personally am of the mindset where it's like it was just going to be some VR universe future. Not quite the metaverse, because I think the metaverse
is on some weird tangent. Like, yeah, do your shopping in VR, and I'm like,
you can go to Walmart, and it's like, nah,
that just seems like a weird extra step for them to be like, oh, the future is now, and I'm just like, I feel like it's a lot easier to just go on Amazon Fresh and just search for what you want and be like, if you're gonna shop online, just do that instead of putting on a fucking Oculus.
Like that's the thing. Oh god. But like I reckon with technology and that, like yeah, we're gonna head some VR route, like because just VR is so ungodly amazing in what it can accomplish. Like it just is. Like the possibilities for there's so many, and the technology is only going to get better. Like it's basically just like in its infancy right now.
Oh yeah.
You know. But it's like I think about the industry now and just how crazy it is. Like it's probably just gonna keep getting crazier, honestly. But I mean, hey, like let's go, let's stick around, and let's just see where it goes. You know, I'm all down for it.
I think
like, it is just wild on the internet.
I think as someone who's like a part of like this community, VTubing is like streaming and being a YouTuber is new relative to a lot of other careers. VTubing is so new; it's only been around for like 5-6 years. And I mean,
it's very new.
In those first few years, it was so niche that really it was like just a complete novelty item. I feel like if it wants to grow, for my money, what we need to do is sort of welcome in a lot of ways that we can sort of appear more accessible to the mainstream, because really there's only been one VTuber who's truly entered the mainstream, and that's Gura from HoloLive, you know, and she's done so well at just being so approachable, whereas I feel as though VTubing, I imagine because it originated in Japan, and Japan has like such an incredibly sort of strong culture of tradition in itself. Like developing tradition is a big part of Japanese culture, and so VTubing naturally developed such an incredible tradition of random things that, you know, when the greats who began this industry do something, the ones who follow will do those exact same things as well. Like, I don't know if you've ever listened to the song King, which is a Vocaloid song. Incredible song.
It sounds I'm a bit out of touch.
No. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry. It's very much in it, right?
You know.
King is an incredible song, and every cover of it is incredible. But it's become such an entrenched part of VTuber culture. It's been covered by like 100 different VTubers. Like eventually, it's almost like sort of some law that there is a finite. The more time that passes after a VTuber's debut, the higher the chances that they will make a cover of King. And I wonder, sort of, you know, it's wonderful because it's a great song, and every one of the people I know who have covered it have done an incredible job. But what you have to wonder is, like, how full of tradition is this community going to become until we become completely inaccessible to the mainstream? Like, you enter into VTubing and it feels like you're sort of falling down a rabbit hole rather than just discovering content and enjoying it, which I think is one of the main reasons why some Twitch streamers and some YouTubers really truly blow up. I mean, let's take, you know, the biggest example is Mr. Beast. Like, he makes Mr. Beast, like, his content is so out there of like, I did insane thing. Like, anyone who boots up YouTube will see that of like, I did this, and will be able to be like, damn, and they'll click on it and they will completely understand what he's doing. They will be impressed by what he's doing, and they'll be like, shit, and then they will have given him what he wants. He gets that view and he moves on with his life. With VTubers, it almost feels like you need to subscribe. You need to join some club. You need to understand, like, all right, here's your history lesson. This is who Kuzuno Ai is. This is NIJISANJI. This is Hololive. This is VShojo. This is everything you need to understand about this. This is this song that's been done. This is how these companies deal with the rights to play certain games. This is how companies deal with the rights to sing certain songs. This is this. This is that. It, like, for me,
it seems like a lot.
It's a lot, right? Like me.
Have you done your homework?
Exactly. Me, I was so new to this when I joined. Like I said, I didn't know what NIJISANJI was when I discovered those auditions, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to like, should I do it? I don't really understand any of this. And obviously, I'm super thankful that I did, but I still feel as though in order to be, I guess it's also, I'm speaking from more of a Western perspective, because VTubing is definitely, like you mentioned about your, you talking about VTubers, the fact that your chat is like, ugh, anime, which is fair. In Japan, VTubing is like such a bigger thing. Like, you will walk out and you'll see.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they have a statue of Kuzuha now from NIJISANJI. Like, and they have, like, you'll walk anywhere in Akiba or whatever it is, and you'll suddenly see just posters from Hololive or NIJISANJI just all over the place. Whereas in the West,
it's crazy just how much it's changed and how mainstream it is there. Yeah, like, I mean. And even there, it's quite recent, because even when I would have been in Japan, like that's the, my chat will always say things like, "Oh my god, anime!" Like, it's just a running joke, honestly. Like, I'm a filthy closeted weeb, right? Like, I'm gonna be very honest with you there. Like, I lived in Tokyo and shit like that. I spent half my time at Akihabara, like Ueno and places like that. But like, yeah, even I remember even when I was there, like, that wouldn't be as public on the street. Whereas now it very much is, and even that's been like a huge change, where you have like kind of like pop-up parade figures and stuff like that for VTubers now, and it's just like holy shit, like this is like that is kind of making it more mainstream. And even if it's just more mainstream in Japan, I reckon it probably will have the cultural effect where it does just kind of spread out. I mean, because like the best benefit of just a VTuber and that is like people are just generally a bit shy on camera. Like, I think everyone's a bit self-conscious about how they look in general, so it's not that feeling of just having an avatar to represent yourself is actually great, because like you don't really need to worry about it so much, and everyone's got their own avatar and that. Like, I know sometimes when we're just chilling in VR chat and stuff like that with my friends, it's like, oh, like this person is just like a small like plush shark avatar, this person's like a red panda, and it's like, that's cool, let's just all hang out, like, let's not worry about it. Whereas if the experience was something where it's like, use HD realistic, representation of what you are IRL, but modeled into this game, is like, that would be a bit almost uncanny valley. There is like kind of just like, what is it? Like, I can't remember who exactly said it, but it's like having like a virtual character, even a cartoon character, is more relatable to sometimes than having an actual person in front of you, because it's like expressions mapped onto something that isn't human. And I think there is almost like a logic that's to be applied there to almost VTubing in general, and why it was like there's almost like a popularity to it. Like, it's more relatable almost because it's not like there's that just kind of representation. Sorry, I'm getting very nerdy and technical here.
No, I love it. It's very fascinating to listen to.
I mean, I think like reasons for that is like, yeah, it's just very cool. And I know I have a lot of friends I know that they're very comfortable just kind of VTubing on that, and like I'm very happy for them, just because, hey, they've got just an avatar and it's like this represents them, and and they love it, like. And I think it will kind of catch more on more as time goes on. Like, I think probably the biggest barrier to entry is probably still just getting the tech set up for like your own rig and a model and that, because like you have to commission someone in that right now if you want like kind of like yourself represented, like there's a bit of a barrier to entry there, I think, for a lot of people. But I think it's something that's just going to become easier to do, I think, over time, and then more people will just get on board with it.
I would hope so. Yeah. I mean, you've got, what is it? Like, you have Vroid Studio, which lets you sort of design your own 3D model, but the tech behind it is so complicated that it can be really difficult for a newcomer to just jump in. And a lot of the time, what someone will do is commission someone to make a Vroid model for them. And I think that really the biggest barrier to entry, let's say, for example, if you discover VTubers, maybe you don't have a lot of money, all you've got to interact with it is your phone. You can get VTube Studio on your phone, but but you would need a model for that. And if you wanted to stream, you would need a computer. If you want to play games, you need a good computer. And if you want to stream, you need good internet. And there are so many different things that you need to pay for in order to make that a reality.
Yeah, it's like, here's your laundry list, basically.
Yeah. You got to start saving.
But it is all becoming just more accessible now. I mean, streaming is way more accessible than it used to be. Like, the fact that you can even just stream off, like, just your PS5 and shit like that now is, like, actually insane. Because, like, oh my god, that's so easy to just set up. And, like, I love that it's becoming more mainstream in that, like even for streaming and that. And I think even for people just having avatars and that, I think that's probably next in line, honestly, in terms of, like, tech.
The more accessible that this as an industry becomes, the more people will be able to attempt it. And the more people that attempt it, the more people who have it and the more people who are hilarious and have great ideas for content will show up and then have their chance at being, you know, at being successful. And that's just brilliant. Like, it's really interesting to think about how sort of, I mean, you must be aware that, like, when interviewed, kids in school now, 40% who are asked, you know, like, want to be YouTubers. Like, that is by far the most popular career choice for kids. And it's nuts to think about, you know, to imagine that where before it would have been kids being like, oh yeah, I want to be like a doctor, I want to be a vet, I want to be an astronaut. It's like, no, I want to be like, I want to be
just be an entertainer. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like just straight up, it is wild seeing that shift and, like, kind of change. Because I remember even back in the day, and that if you were saying you were watching YouTube and that, it's like, oh, you're a bit of a nerd, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're watching videos online instead of watching TV. Like, what? Like, the sports ball ain't good enough for you, you know?
Yeah. Everyone in school is
set in, like, change.
Everyone in the lunch hall is just sat and chatting with their friends, and there's that one table of kids, and they got their phones out and they're watching YouTubers, or they're playing Mario Kart, like, download play on their DSs or whatever it is, and then suddenly that is just so much more normal now. I mean, maybe it feels more normal because we're more entrenched in that community, but it's definitely growing, like, so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's more normal to us because, again, we're all heavily kind of rooted in it, and even the people, like, in the chat here, like, you know, like, if you're here watching a live stream on YouTube, you have an idea about all of this, you know. Let's not fool ourselves here. But it's like, over time, like, it just becomes more and more mainstream. And I think even one of the best comparisons we can draw is just video games in general.
Yeah.
Like, I was mentioning just calling people a nerd there. Like, you used to be shunned back in the day for even talking about video games. You know, and it's like, wow, you're such a nerd. Like, and it used to be a genuine thing. You look at even comic book culture, and then, like, you know, even all these Marvel films come along, and now it's like, it's so mainstream. And I think for, like, a lot of live streaming and that, and, like, this kind of world that we're in, which is, like, just a very weird world, but I think it's just on the rise. I do think there will come a day, because, like, where I know even, like, right now, like, I'll say things like, it's all a bit fake. This is the fake world that we live in. But it's probably not going to be like that for much longer, honestly, because, like, it's just on the up and up. And, you know, and, like even, like, when you look at, like, what kids are saying for, like, careers and that, like, they're all just on YouTube and stuff like that now. They're all kind of looking up to this now. And, you know, they'll grow up eventually, and then it's just like, it's almost like a generational shift where it's like, yeah, we all kind of get this now. And it's already happened before with games and that, so it's probably going to happen again. So what I'm saying is VTubers will rule the world, basically, and it's only a matter of time. And, you know, we should all accept our overlords at this point.
Accept your anime overlords. Don't fight it anymore. We will come for you. We will submit to your overlords, and we shall grant you a painless death, perhaps.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God.
It's only a matter of time. But you're so right. Like, it's just growing in its own way, and you never know what is going to come next. I mean, one of the biggest, like, fun statistics that I think, it began with the knowledge that the games industry is some 3 times as large as Hollywood now, and
it's crazy.
The Game Awards is now a far more televised event than the Oscars. Like, the Oscars...
Oh, it's great, yeah. Like, the viewership is, like, I'll watch the Game Awards every year, and it's like, Oscars comes around, it's just like, I'm not so... I haven't seen most of these movies. I'm not as keen. But, like, Game Awards, that's like, hell yeah, I want to watch that. Like,
yeah.
It's so great.
God.
It's so much more mainstream. And, like, even stuff like that really just pushes all of this into a more mainstream light. Like, even, like, Game Awards and even, like, the Streamer Awards and stuff like that. Like, it kind of, like, legitimizes our field a bit more in the larger world. I think even that's what the Oscars does in Paris. It just makes it all a bit more legit, feel more real.
It sort of sells it to people.
It
sort of sells a lot more sort of like artsy film to people who wouldn't normally watch it. But at the same time, I feel that the Oscars is becoming so like I don't even know what the right word to describe it would be. It's like the Oscars is becoming so entrenched in just we need to get good ratings, so they keep bringing Jimmy Kimmel back and Jesus fucking.
It gets very dramatic in recent years too.
I was tweeting up a storm while I was watching the Oscars with Jimmy Kimmel because every single time he was on screen, I was like, I want to watch these good films be given awards. Why is this man still talking? I was just getting so mad at him, but. Then again, with the Game Awards, you know, we have something new, and it almost feels like it's a lot more in touch with what people want to see. And also, I was just thinking this.
Absolutely.
How hilarious is it that in the same year we have Will Smith at the Oscars, and we have that kid who walked on stage during the Elden Ring winning Best Picture? Like, how did that both happen in the same year? Both the Oscars and the Game Awards are going to have way better security next time to stop him from walking on stage.
That was crazy just watching that. It's like he literally just walked up and it's like, who is this guy?
Who is he? The thing is, he was so clever with it because he walked on stage with FromSoft. And, like, he was fully playing the part. Like, when they walked up, he was patting the guys in the back being like, well done, well done. And I imagine in that moment, you're so like, wow, we won. And you're, like, you just wouldn't question it. Like, I guess this guy is some upper management guy. Like, I guess he's just sort of supposed to be here. Like,
you must be involved.
If they act like they're supposed to be there, you probably wouldn't believe it. I'm glad that Miyazaki-san did not get slapped. I'm glad that it was just some weird joke about Bill Clinton.
Yeah, that is just so bizarre. Like, I mean, the memes after it were quite funny because it was just like invaded by Dark Spirit Bill Clinton and stuff like that. That was great to just see afterwards. Just to like try and rationalize this really bizarre event that just happened. Like,
it is so weird, and I guess it's also nice that that FromSoft had their chance to like do a proper acceptance speech and stuff, but it was kind of sort of undercut by randomly at the end, I want to nominate this award to my Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody. And then
it's like, what's going on?
I love how you can see if you watch like the broadcast, you can see as he says that, then security are like, oh, he's not supposed to be there, and they all just like march on stage.
That's not Mr. Elden Ring. We need to get him off the stage.
Can we please have John Elden Ring back on stage? What happened to him?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. I think it is just because this is all just so new. It's like, we've never had to deal with a scenario like this, but can absolutely guarantee that this year they'll be more prepared for that. Like, you know, you live and learn.
They're gonna, everyone who's nominated for an award, they're gonna have like a list of everyone who is supposed to be in the group going up on stage, and the instant they see someone walking up, they're gonna be like, nope. They're gonna have.
That's the thing, like they will. There will be like way more security vetting. Like, of course there will. But it's because the industry is new. Like, you know, like they haven't had to deal with this before. You know, Jeff Keighley was probably very confused that this would ever happen, and probably didn't anticipate Rabbi Bill Clinton. You know, who would?
I love the redemption arc that Jeff Keighley had, because I don't know if you remember like the Mountain Dew Doritos thing that happened. Like,
he's had such a change in like his image through the years. Yeah, because I do remember him as like, oh, it's Dorito Pope. You know, like that's just Jeff Keighley. That's who he was. Like, that's how everyone recognized him. And now it's like, no, that's Jeff Keighley. He's like an icon of the games industry and just games entertainment at large. Like, putting all this together. You know, I like it's an insane like kind of journey to see with his career. Like, I'm happy for him. You know, he's done fantastic.
Yeah, like he went from being like sort of boomer who infiltrated the games industry to make a buck, like with the whole Doritos thing, to being someone genuinely insanely passionate about games, and also a really big part of Elden Ring's marketing. Like, I don't know if you were keeping up with it at the time, but like there was supposedly someone at FromSoft was like doing these tiny little leaks saying like, oh, it will be at the Summer Games Fest. And so everyone interested in Elden Ring was eyeing the Summer Game Fest, and when Jeff Keighley was like, guys, it's time, and then they finally showed the Elden Ring gameplay trailer.
Oh, God.
Like I remember everyone on the Elden Ring subreddit was like just praising Jeff Keighley, like he brought us home, he brought us the trailer, finally.
Oh my God.
What is it? Before we knew what Torrent's name was, we used to call him Yakul because of the Studio Ghibli, Princess Mononoke, like with that one.
Yeah.
That was such a different time. No longer
I remember watching a bunch of VatiVidya videos at the time where it's like he was always like desperate for news, just to come out for Elden Ring, because like I mean it literally was. I don't know how much people remember it. Like it was like the game was announced, I think in like 2017. Like it was announced very early.
Oh yeah.
That George R.R. Martin was working on this, and it's like literally no news for like 4 years. And like people were like clutching at straws. It was like, is it even happening?
I think it was like the instant that Sekiro came out, there was some news about a game. I think its working title was just Great Rune. And then right after that, at the 2019 E3, there was the one cinematic trailer which showed us like Radahn, Melania, and everything. And then after that, there was nothing. Just nothing. And every single time there was an event, the fans were like, all right, I'm just gonna turn up, gonna go to E3, gonna go to Gamescom, and just like, this is the one. Guys, this is the one. Hopium, right? Huff that hopium, let's make sure it happens. And it would never happen. And then suddenly, Summer Games Fest, we get that incredible trailer. And oh god, I remember I was in there watching the event as it happened and seeing that trailer. I had never watched the other events. I just kind of figured, I reckon this is going to be the one. And then it actually did happen. Where was Glaive Master Hodir? They never put him in the game. I can't believe that the fans, they just started making up fake lore for Elden Ring, and none of it turned out to be true. Where was Glaive Master Hodir? That's what I'm asking.
It's funny watching the cycle even happen again, because I know that like they've put out an image like, hey, there's DLC coming.
Shadow of the Earth.
And it's like the cycle repeats. And it's but from one image, it's now like, okay, how much can we extract from this one image? It's like, there's Torrent, there's a field. It's like, is it set in place in a field? Is the DLC about Torrent's homeland? And it's like, like here we go again.
It's exactly the same thing. I mean, Vati is part of that as well. Like he made,
he made a whole
20-minute video about one image.
Like it's a great, like all credit due for Vati. Like it's a great video. And like, genuinely goes into like a lot of the potential aspects. But at the same time, it's also kind of hilarious because it's one image. Here we got to talk about it for at least 20 minutes. Like analyze everything we can.
He is brilliant because this is like his field. He has a PhD in From Software lore.
Oh, he does.
The only reason it works is because From Software don't want to tell you the lore themselves. They're like, you guys figure it out. And Vati is like, all right, I will be Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing. I am going to extract the knowledge. And it's like, okay, well, now that I understand how From Software like to give their lore, if they show me one PNG with a blonde-haired character riding a horse next to a dying tree, I can be like, all right, we can clearly see that this is Mikola riding on Torrent, and that is the Erd tree in some alternate timeline, and this is all completely different. This is set in the past, this is set in the future, and suddenly we immediately have an understanding of what may or may not be happening in the future. It's kind of amazing that he's had such a long-lasting career based on one company's games.
I mean, it's great, but fair play to him as well, because you know, like it makes sense that like there would be someone to kind of analyze all of that. Like, so just to bring in a bit of my own background here. So here's the reason I love Souls. Like, if I can just nerd out a moment,
go for it.
I can nerd out a moment. So my background when I went to college is actually postmodern literature, and postmodern literature literally is indirect storytelling, the genre, and like Dark Souls is like postmodern storytelling, the video game. Like, it's how they all work. It's like indirect, it's fragmented, you have to piece it together. It's very small associations that lead to other associations. And it makes sense that someone like Vati would actually come around into that field because, yeah, like, of course, like, it's really cryptic. It's deliberately designed to be cryptic because the player has this, the idea is to impart senses and kind of overwhelm the player with these uncanny feelings of connectedness. And it makes sense that there is someone who's going to be, right, let's actually try and connect this and explain it. You know, because I even know for a lot of Vati's videos, like, he's theory crafting for a lot of it, you know, but, like, just based on the logic and evidence that he's got. But it's great, because I love the games for that kind of thing, like, just sort of piecing together that kind of story. Like, one of my favorite books is called, like, House of Leaves, and it's very much a fragmented story where it's, like, you're reading a biographical account through the lens of an editor, through the lens of another editor, through the lens of a publishing company. Like, it's ridiculous. And Dark Souls storytelling basically operates on the same degree, where it's like you're learning about the ruins of a kingdom through the second kingdom that failed around that kingdom and the cult that worshipped that first kingdom. But then there's like this fragmented storyteller that exists like thousands of years later. It's the same kind of lens setup. It's very much postmodern storytelling. And it makes sense that you have like almost an analyst like Vati to help with that. You know, because I love Vati for his videos, and I love Souls for how they present narrative like that. Like I'm a big nerd for that kind of stuff.
No, I love it as well, and we are so lucky that that Miyazaki had sort of the upbringing that he had, because I don't know if you know much about like where he came from as a person.
I know pieces. Yeah.
Like essentially, what I understand about why he likes to make games the way he makes them is that when he was young, he was living in Japan, extremely poor. Like, the only thing that he could afford was, like, a library card, and he used to go to the library and read books, but of course, he only spoke very limited English, and he would read fairy tales, and he would read sort of English literature, but he would only understand so much, and so he thought that as he grew older, there was beauty, in a sense, in only understanding so much of a story and being presented with a beautiful world, but one that you can only understand so much of, and something that you would have to try really hard to get into. And that's what, you know, that's what Dark Souls is. Even something like Sekiro, which is so so much more straightforward in its storytelling. And how interesting is it that Sekiro is the only one set in Japan, or a fictionalized version of Japan rather, which is the homeland that he, or the culture that he would understand best, and that one has the most clarity. What he basically says is there's beauty and there's, you know, there's value in a story, in a world that you don't fully understand. And so that's why
absolutely
what I love so much about Souls games and about From Software's art design is creating enemies and worlds that are so completely ridiculous and so difficult to understand that it, with limited lore, you are forced to put the pieces together, and by not providing an explanation for so many things, what you wind up with is a world that feels so much more compelling. And I mean, with the visuals that they create, like, let's take, for example, at the end of every Dark Souls game, if you get the default ending, you touch a bonfire, you sit down, and you burn to death. And
lovely. Like,
how
congratulations.
After having gone through, for some people, a game so difficult, it would have taken them 50, 60, 70, however many hours to beat, for the ending to just be your character just sits down and dies, to have, like, how visually, like, incredible that is to watch, and to be like, what the fuck did I just see? And then the desire to, like, how do I understand this? Like, what, like, and then immediately you have to start researching, you read item descriptions, you look it up online. And again, that's what Miyazaki says, is like, I love the idea of the players of my games being, like, adventurers who are sat around a campfire trying to sort of exchange stories. And that's why a big part of each Souls game is Googling what to do online, because they're, you know, like, how else does anyone find out how to get to Archdragon Peak at Dark Souls 3? How does anyone...
It's so bizarre with some of them. Yeah, it's like, are you supposed to curl up as an egg to get here? Like, what the, like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you work that stuff out on yourself? Like,
in a game with such weird jumping mechanics like Dark Souls 1, jump onto, like, this weird narrow platform above Firelink Shrine, go into the nest, and then a prompt will appear to curl up like an egg. And suddenly you get into a new area. I'm hoping that, like, the Elden Ring DLC is as weird to access as the Dark Souls 1 DLC, where it's like you have to find a random crystal man behind the Hydra, kill him, go to a completely opposite side of the map, find a weird little crystal, and then go back to that first place and find a weird portal and then get dragged into it. Like, it's incredible how they can make such amazing content and hide it so incredibly well. And it makes me wonder, like, and that's another thing about Elden Ring, is that when that came out, people were exploring every corner of that game, even though it was such a huge game. Like, the whole thing about the illusory walls that took, like, 10,000 damage in order to actually break, or whatever it was.
Oh, that was so stupid. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
There's people desperately wanting to find every little thing that they possibly could about this game, because they knew, because of their reputation with previous games, how much could have been hidden from them. I kind of feel the same way about Mario 64, like, with all of the little places that you can jump into that look like they look like
this is a hell of a leap, just going from Elden Ring to Mario 64. But do continue.
But you know what I mean? Like, if you ever played Mario 64, you know Lethal Lava Land, where there's the volcano in the middle. Like, you look at the volcano and you're like, fire's coming out of the volcano, I'm not going to jump in there. But if you do jump into it, boom, entire section of the level down there. So it makes you think, what else is this game hiding from me? Same thing with FromSoft. I mean, if they can make Archdragon Peak in Dark Souls 3, where you have to kill an optional boss, go through an illusory wall behind him, find a gesture, go to a random dungeon, and then do that gesture for like a good 30 seconds for it to teleport you to a random other area.
So crazy.
What else is the game hiding from me? You know, it just makes you want to explore so much more rather than just make a gun for the end. And then, obviously, with that, you can have like so many random optional enemies, like Melania in Elden Ring. Oh my god. They couldn't have gotten away.
It's purely optional as well, which is crazy.
So optional that you have to find the Albinoric woman in order to actually make it there. You know,
here's like 2 other points, like complete opposite ends of the map, and it's like you can very easily miss them, and if you just don't find them, it's like, well, that entire like God knows how many months of development we worked in this area is just gone.
Gone.
Like,
no,
it's very brave to even do that for designing the game.
No Melania, no little town, no Moog, no this, no this, no that. If you don't find these random 2 shield halves or do a really obscure quest line, you have gone through this entire game and you will never find it. And I think there's so much value in that, in hiding it and making sure that the world feels like something, rather than that you're supposed to be a part of, something that you're barging your way into and trying to figure out. The more that it feels like a mystery, the more compelling it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, and it just makes for a more memorable experience too, because like come the end of it, it's like, because you have to almost put in work to kind of get something more out of the game, it's like, wow, you know, that actually sticks with you a much longer time, versus is like, you are John Elden Ring, this is your purpose in this world. Like, you know, it's difficult to even access all of the content, so when you actually finally get it, it feels so much more rewarding. Like, I'm very excited for the DLC.
Oh, me too.
I genuinely can't wait for it.
I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring recently. Like, I made a new character who I wanted to do like the dragon sorcery with, or like the dragon incantations and stuff like that. And I killed what's his name, Placidusax, and got like the dragon's crag blade, which lets you turn into a cloud and all that kind of stuff. And I've been playing through all of that, and the entire time I was thinking like, what are they gonna add with DLC? I was like, what more could they add to this game? Because it's already so enormous, like so much bigger than anything else that they've done before. But I'm curious. I hope they don't add an enemy like Melania. I really hope they don't.
They absolutely will. They absolutely will. Like, because they have to one up Melania now. That's
they have to one up. How do you one up a character that is insanely tanky, can kill you in 2 hits? Each of those hits heals her and has combos that are visually identical but have different timing to them. I don't know how you manage to one that up. I hope they don't. I mean, remember back in Dark Souls 3, Medea was supposed to be like the ultimate challenge, and Medea, like in retrospect, isn't even that hard anymore.
It's just a very long boss to fight.
It's
like,
endurance.
It's just so much health.
It's endurance, and it can one-shot you, but every one of Medea's moves is very telegraphed. I don't know if I could say the same about Melania. Like, she can just run up like and just you're dead.
She has the waggle sword move that hits you 11 times, heals her the full, and instantly kills you if you get hit once. And it's like, well, I should have rolled, I guess. Like, you know,
yeah, I guess I should have rolled on the exact right frame to get through the waterfowl dance, and that's like just the only way that I can do it. But I'm looking forward to how cryptic it is to find that. Because remember how cryptic it was to find Medea in Dark Souls 3, where you have to like go up the elevator, find the illusory wall, hit another illusory wall, go down a ladder after you've knocked him off the bridge, which most people would think, I'm just going to run past him, you know.
Yeah, no, you have to put in work even for that. Like, I think there's a good few DLC bosses that are like that. I think there's like 2 in like even the, I can't remember the name of it, the Frost one, the Painted World one. I think there's like 2 in that you can just miss.
Yeah.
Like there's one of them that's just like a wolf guy, and he's just down the bottom of a pit, and you wouldn't even really think to look there because the story doesn't even lead you down there. And it's like, well, there's an entire encounter here, and like here's like 3 different weapons you can get if you do it. It's like, oh, okay, all right. Like, it's wild how much they hide in the games. Something I've always thought, just as like kind of a funny aside, like I doubt they would ever do this, but I know that like in Square, like I know that Miyazaki is kind of infamous for just being the developer and just having these random moments of bullshittery in Souls games, because like as well designed as the games are, there's always just a like, well, you're just dead, lol, you should have anticipated that, and it does something random. You know, be it like a mimic, or it's like, yeah, this boss just kills you if you look at them. It's like, oh, okay, thanks Miyazaki. Something I've always hoped is there's a tradition in some Square Enix games where they put the president of Square Enix themselves in the game as this super boss. I don't know if you've seen this. It's in like Final Fantasy 15.
I have
think it's
not
in, like,
seen this. What is?
So this is amazing. So it's in like Near Automata, I think, and like in Final Fantasy 15. It's in quite a few of them where it's just the CEO of Square Enix, literally the guy in a suit. And he like thanks you for playing the game and then initiates a super boss fight against the literal CEO of Square Enix, like completely breaking like the fourth wall of the game. And I've always hoped for Souls games that we could just have like, thank you for playing my series. It is I, Miyazaki, and you just have to fight him. And it's like in a poison swamp, of course. And it is like mirrors Artorias of the Abyss or something like that. Like I would love that kind of encounter. They'll never do it. They'll never do it.
I would go insane. But remember, what Miyazaki has said is that Patches is his self-insert character at the end of Shadow of the Erdtree.
Could be the final boss.
Exactly, because remember Dark Souls 3, right? Slave Knight Gale. I would go as far as to say probably my favorite boss in any game. Random hollow guy you meet halfway through the game who lets you get into the second DLC and is then a summon, and that's it. And then at the end of it, he is the apex boss who sums up all of the themes of the series. The true final boss of all of Dark Souls is this random guy. Why not have Patches for Elden Ring? He comes back. Ah, you killed me at the beginning when you found me in Limgrave. Well, I'm back. And suddenly he just is like, yes, I've become the demon of hatred. I will now summon something from every single game. Here is the Tower Knight from Demon Souls. Here is this from that.
So he's literally just like, I am the Elden Ring, and like initiate boss fight. Like, yeah, that would be amazing.
I mean, that's the thing at the end of Elden Ring is that you find Radagon and he has like the Elden Ring inside him. What if that was just Miyazaki? He was like, you found me. I am the Elden Ring. Let us do battle.
Like Miyazaki, but like it just full on like kind of like just a business suit or something like that. Like it's just him. And he just like runs at you like actual like human proportions and stuff like that, and like tries to slap you in the face. All of his attacks have to spawn poison swamps in some capacity because he loves them so much.
He pulls out a gun.
He pulls out a gun. It's just the most like lore-breaking moment. It's just Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin as like a duo boss. It's like Ornstein and Smough, the two of them. And like which one you kill first? Like if you kill like Miyazaki first, like George R.R. Martin just grows larger. And just tries to kill you.
One of my favorite videos of George is like the fact that all he did was write like the world for Elden Ring, and the rest of it was built on by Miyazaki and From Software.
Oh, God,
there's an interview with him where he says where he talks about it. He says, "Yes, I'm working. I wrote the story for this game. It's called The Elden Ring, and it's a sequel to a game called Dark Souls. Like neither of which is true."
So stupid.
It's so stupid.
The Elden Ring, the sequel to Dark Souls.
A direct sequel, yes. After the events of Dark Souls 3, the world, after the world has ground into itself and created the kiln of the first flame. After the world goes dark and you sacrifice the Age of Fire, suddenly it reappears as the lands between. And George R. R. Martin is like, yes. The demigods, yes, that's when they show up. Queen Marika, she is the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3. She's back.
Oh god, I mean, it's so stupid. Like, I've seen people even joking about like George R. R. Martin's involvement, because I think he's even downplayed his own involvement in the game. Like he said things where it's like, oh, I just wrote some notes, I didn't do too much work, which kind of gives me the impression that like Miyazaki and him were just in a restaurant, and he was just like, hey, give me that napkin there. And he just like scribbles down some notes. I was like, yeah, put that in the game. Put that in the game, Miyazaki. That would be great.
It was like, okay, well, I mean, George R. R. Martin, he's kind of written something here. Also, did you know that every single Elden Ring boss's name begins with a character from George R. R. Martin's real name?
Yes, it does, which is, like, kind of weird.
It's a little bit odd. Like, what? Morgoth, Renala, Radagon, the two R's. You've got Marika, another M. You've got Rykard,
GR and M.
R.
It's George R. R. Martin. Like,
I think, every one of them is either GR or M. Godric, Godfrey, Renala, Rykard, Rani. Every single one of them is born from... Is George R. R. Martin trying to tell us that he is Marika? Is that the twist at the end of the DLC? That we'll find Marika and she is George R. R. Martin?
this just lends credence to the fact that he might be a secret boss in the DLC, and it could happen. It's just George R.R. Martin. He has all of the letters combined. Just fight him. He throws like unpublished drafts of like the final like volume of Game of Thrones at you in the fight or something like that. Like it's perfect. Like we're doing your work for you, Miyazaki. Like come on, you just gotta make this.
What we need now is a mod that turns the Godskin duo into Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin, where George R.R. Martin is the Godskin noble and Miyazaki is the Godskin apostle. And kind of like the mod for Smash that turns Pyra and Mithra into Jesse and Walter from Breaking Bad.
Oh my god, please someone get on that. That sounds amazing. I just want to see George do like the donut roll attack. Like, you know, when he like, pumps up his chest and just rolls at you, but it's just George R.R. Martin.
Just George R.R. Martin increasing in size and rolling towards you.
George!
While Miyazaki is stretching with that weird sickle attack that he has.
Laying down a poison swamp.
Yeah, of course, because I definitely want to fight Godskin Duo in a poison swamp. That sounds like so much more fun.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh god. Alright, I have to go to the bathroom actually. I'll be back in literally like 2 minutes. Look after my chat, will you?
Oh yeah, sure, I'll hold down the fort. That's
you hold down the fort. Good luck.
Oh, Jesus. No pressure. And crabs as well. Like, he just summons them. You see that crab in the game? That crab was written by George R.R. Martin. That's him. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, everyone's saying hi to me now. Yeah, how's it going, folks? Are you well? Oh, God. Hang on, here. Hang on, let me show you these. Hang on. It's like, while we're showing off the VTuber avatar, hang on. Like, look. We can blush. I don't know if you've seen this. We can cry. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the way this is rigged, I can, like... I wasn't sure if there was a way to inject this, like, naturally into the conversation with Vox that I can do this. I don't know what context there would be for it, but it is possible. I can puff up my cheeks, too, like... It's a really reactive model. Like Dandy and Kelly did, like, an amazing job on this. God, do it again. No, I'm not doing it again, because now if you ask me to do it again, that's for weird reasons, right? Let's be clear on this. And we're not having any of that. I already treated you guys enough by doing it once, because I know some fucker's going to clip it. Oh, God almighty. Yeah, I hope you're all keeping well, though.
And I'm back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Nothing bad happened, don't worry.
Nothing bad happened, chat. Did anything
bad
happen?
No, they're all good. Yep. Keep it cool. Keep it cool, chat.
If anything happened, maybe you should not let me know about it, or maybe you should. I'm gonna leave the moral choice up to you. This is a telltale game of a stream. Did I wash my hands? Yes, I washed my hands. Do your chat ask you that if you go to take a piss? Do they ask you if you washed your hands, as though it's like even a question?
So they ask that actually every time, because like my office is actually it's like it used to be like just a bedroom in this apartment, and I was just like, don't need that. Put the office in here. But there's a toilet that's like literally 2 meters from me. Like there's a toilet directly behind me. And it's like, because of that, whenever I say like, okay, chat, I have to go to the loo, I'm only like 30 seconds to a minute. Like I'm super quick. So every time chat's like, that was too quick. You didn't wash your hands properly. Like every single time without fail. So it's like almost an ordeal if I go to the bathroom for him. So like sometimes if I just go, no joke, if I go sometimes I deliberately take longer just so that I don't weird them out with how fast it is. And I just like go on my phone for like 2 minutes and just look at it. Like before coming back to the stream because it feels more normal.
It's always just, it's one or the other. You either are so fast they assume that you didn't wash your hands, or you're so slow that they assume you fell in and they're like, what, did you stop to like take care of something else?
Jesus.
Like, will you just get distracted? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it kind of just scares my chat, unfortunately, a little bit.
This is one of those things you have to get used to. Like, streaming is not just playing games for a living. You also have to deal with the politics of taking a shit on stream. Like, how do you cope with that when you're not quite done
We're asking the real questions. Like, how do you handle Fox? How do you handle taking a shit on stream?
Well, let me tell you, it's like
strategy?
in the interview with Riku Tazumi when I was being interviewed before I joined NIJISANJI, it was like, now son, I'm gonna ask you a really important question. How would you handle needing to go and take a shit while you were streaming? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I feel like I would just have to make a joke about it. And he's like, wrong answer, son. You're fired.
It's like the job interview. Could you imagine? It's like, thank you for your interest in NIJISANJI, you know, it's great to have you on board. Just quick question. How do you need to take a shit while streaming? What are you gonna do?
I would install a toilet seat in my chair so I could never stop. And they're like, that's the right attitude, correct?
Yeah, we like that attitude. We got a shitter here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a shitter. We can close the auditions. We found him. I repeat, we found him. We've located the shitter.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right. Pivoting away from toilet humor,
yes,
there's a question I've been eyeing up in the hashtag. So we've been talking about Souls games, and there is a question. So let's argue. What is, out of all of them, so considered, let's say, from Demon Souls up until Elden Ring, what is the best Souls game in either story, game mechanics, world building, etc.? Which one do you think is the best, or your favorite, and why? That is a big question. That is a big question.
That's a very loaded question. I mean, the postmodern nerd in me says Dark Souls 3 is the best in terms of story, just because it kind of wraps it all up. And interestingly, I actually appreciate Dark Souls 3 a lot more now, having just played Dark Souls 2. Because I'll actually defend Dark Souls 2 here. The story is not nearly as bad as people say it is. It actually is like kind of a natural progression from like 1 to 2 to 3. And having played 2, I actually appreciate the plot of 3 out significantly more.
Really?
It makes sense what's actually happening in 3. Yeah, like I would really defend Dark Souls 2 in there. I don't think Dark Souls 2 is the worst one either. In that regard,
what do you think is?
I think Dark Souls 2 in terms of plot would be a top 3.
Wow.
Like it's actually very high up. Like I don't know. I would put it. I don't know if it's heresy to put it on par with Bloodborne, but I'm tempted to. That might be heresy.
I mean, I have, so one of the first streams I ever did was playing Dark Souls 2 for 8 hours because I had not played it yet, and I still haven't beaten it because the game gave me depression. Like, I got to...
Oh, Jesus.
What is it? Like, I went through... I can't remember what boss it is. Like, when you go down to the sea and there's some boss in a really deep dungeon that's blind, and I remember I beat that, and then I...
Oh yeah.
And then I gave up and I didn't play it after that. But I know the DLC is good. That's the one game that I can't really speak on because I've never really gotten to the end of it. And I was watching your Dark Souls 2 VOD recently.
Oh Jesus.
And obviously it was really fun, but it's still, I don't know. That's like the one that I can't really speak on. Saying Dark Souls 3 is the best in terms of story is very based because I mean, I don't know if I would call it the best because I'm leaning towards Bloodborne. But I mean, when it comes to like the ending, and when it comes to like the way that it sort of takes the themes from Dark Souls 1 of like, you know, choosing to prolong the life of the world versus choosing to just kill it off and let the world rebuild itself in darkness or whatever it is, the way that that's expressed in Dark Souls 3 with the characters and with the music and with the way that it's presented, it's really beautiful. And also because of the DLC, you have a character like Slave Knight Gale who really brings that narrative to a complete circle where he's just like you, and he, in his own way, really wants the world to continue or to create a new world in order for life to survive. It's like the themes presented really sort of come full circle in the DLC, and so I guess we have to wait and see what Elden Ring does with its DLC, but I would agree with you that I think Dark Souls 3 has an incredibly compelling story. I would say probably more so than Dark Souls 1.
I mean, I think it has the advantage though because it's building off the previous 2. Like, because even in 3, you see things where it's like, holy shit, it's that place from the first game, and it's like such a like jaw-dropping moment when stuff like that happens.
Like you enter Anor Londo, like you see the name.
Well, I was just about to say not spoil it. Spoilers, but yeah, like stuff like that. It's like kind of like amazing moments, and like it has the advantage of being built off the other 2 games. And I really do mean the other 2. I think if Dark Souls 2 didn't exist, I think Dark Souls 3 would be kind of shite. Like I think it actually needs Dark Souls 2, and having played 2, I get it a lot more in terms of the plot and what it leads to. I think Bloodborne has the advantage of being so self-contained because it's just kind of its own thing, and it's like it's very well rounded for what it is. But yeah, I mean, I think 3 is my favorite. I think 2 is definitely up there. I love the original, just of course, because it's it's the first one.
It's what started it all. I mean, Demon Souls as well. I don't know if you.
Well, actually, so yeah, maybe actually to say that I think Demon Souls is my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it in comparison to the other ones.
Wow.
I don't like the world, is how I would describe it. I know that's a controversial take, I'm sure. But like it's too disconnected. I don't really feel attached to anything in it because of that disconnectedness. And I feel like it's just needlessly cruel for some points of it. Like how Demon Souls does the bonfires is like you have one at the start, and then it's like you have to beat the next boss for another bonfire.
No, you are
and if you
right.
don't beat the boss, you're back at the start. Like that's
You're
it.
right with that. I've not played the original. I've only played the PS5 remake. But
I've only played that one too.
It's also the game that I have like exhausted the most. Like maybe it's because Demon Souls is a smaller game in comparison. But Demon Souls, what is it? I've like every possible build I've done. I beat the game. I almost beat the game at SL1. I got up to like the final boss before I lost interest.
Jesus.
I did like you know how what is it? Blue Point. They did that thing with like the rusted like the clay coins. We've got to find,
yeah,
I did that to get the Penetrator armor set that Vati did the video on and all that kind of stuff. Like I 100% of the game, got all the trophies and everything. But I think a lot of that is because like in the PS5 game, the graphics are so incredible. Like I still kind of think that no game has really reached that level in terms of just pure graphical fidelity. But
yeah, it's gorgeous. And even like the mocap animations that they did for it is like that's crazy. Like no one in the right mind would do that much detail for it.
It's amazing.
But it works so well.
We finally got a From Software game where the character's lips move.
Yes, we did. Patches actually talks. He smiles at you.
Go. He does. Oh,
it's like oddly kind of creepy when he smiles at you. He's got a big happy face.
I guess the thing about Demon Souls is that the level design varies so greatly in terms of how like sort of accessible it is. Like let's take 1-1, like the Bolitarian Gates or whatever it is, where you fight phalanx at the end. With that one, you've got only the one like bonfire or arcstone or whatever it's called in that game, but you have so many shortcuts that mean that when you make it through a certain amount of the level, you can open a shortcut, and that I feel like is a really like that's what From Software do best, is making that looping level design where you'll find like a random door and suddenly you'll be able to walk straight back from the first bonfire to a place you've advanced to after hours in the level, and then there's another one later. Like it's a really well structured level, and I think that's great. Like you don't need multiple bonfires or save points in a level where you can make permanent progress with shortcuts and stuff like that. That said, we also have to talk about the Shrine of Storms, where like 4-2, where like, there is nothing. You have a 20-minute gauntlet to reach the boss, and Old Hero is not an easy boss. Even if he's blind, he can one-shot you, or like, catch you in a combo that one-shots you or whatever, and then suddenly you have to do the entire level all over again.
Like, I think that and the swamp, because of course even then there was a swamp. It's just horrible because it's like, well, you died. It's like you literally have half an hour to go to get back to this boss.
The
it's like,
fucking
oh my
swamp. I remember, because I was playing the Demon Souls remake before I was working. Like at that time, I was just sort of like very much a NEET. Like I was just staying at home. It was during COVID, when the PS5 came out, so I didn't really have anything to do. And at that time, like, I remember just taking so long to get through 5-2, like, just trying to beat that swamp level. There is a shortcut in that level, but it's really difficult to find, because once you get to the end of it, you don't want to find a shortcut. You want to beat the boss and be done with the fucking level.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just sick of this, like, let me out of here.
And thank God the bosses in Demon Souls aren't that hard. Like, I feel like that would be the one... That would be like the game killer, is if the bosses were really difficult. But in Demon Souls, really the only difficult boss would probably be either Penetrator or Old King Alan. Every other boss is just figuring out a gimmick.
What's the name of the one? It's like you're in the prison cell one. Like it's the prison cell level where you have to fight the gargoyles or something.
Oh, man-eaters. That one sucks.
that was horrible. That
one sucks.
Oh, I couldn't stand that.
I mean, you can get a shortcut with that one, so it's like a 5-minute run back, but like at least it's not, You know, like having to do the entire level again, because like Upper Latria is that's a long level.
That was it.
That's a really long level. I wouldn't want to do that again. And Maneater is buggy as well. Like, and the fact that in the remake they didn't change how buggy it was from PS3, like the Maneaters dash off the thing, they're in midair, they look like they're standing on solid ground, and then suddenly in one frame they're just flying immediately and they fly somewhere else. It was really
You have to appreciate the dedication, to just even preserve the jank. It's like it's really broken animation. Let's capture that in HD.
Yes.
It's like, okay, sure. Whatever you want, Blue Point. Like,
whatever you want. I mean, it's like, it's also the way that like they kept the basic enemies, their AI, they kept it the same, like the random enemies that would just, if you stand in front of a hole and they chase you, they would just walk straight into the hole without thinking about it. They were like, no, this is part of the game. Keep the AI bad. Why not? And I don't know why. I find that to be weirdly nice. You know, I don't really want to think,
Yeah, I mean, there's something very nostalgic about that as well, because if you played the original Demon Souls, and it's like, hey, it's as broken as it was then, I guess, you know? And it's like, even with the animations being so faithfully recreated, like, I think there's even a weird one with, like, a bow, where you can smack him over the head with a bow, and it's like, there's no world where you would want to do that, but they still mocapped it, just to have it there, because it was there in the original. It's like, I love it from, like, a technical standpoint and stuff like that, and the graphics, but it's just, in terms of, like, just fun to play, like, I just think the other worlds are way better and better connected and stuff. Like, I just have a better time.
I mean, I feel like Dark Souls 1 really mastered that kind of circular level
so
design,
good.
especially with, you know, stuff like, really, it shows itself early on with when you reach the Undead Parish and you get to, like, that random elevator, it takes you all the way back to Firelink Shrine. And then you have just every single little area is so well connected. Like, really, the only disconnected part of the game is in the second half, which most people would say that's kind of where Dark Souls 1 sort of falls off a little bit when you get to Tomb of the Giants and you get to
it's
Lost
a bit more frustrating
and stuff like that. Really, with Lost Izalith, I feel like it's the Bed of Chaos, and it's also wearing the lava ring, and just the sound when you're running over the lava, like the like that's the only way that you can like reach the boss. And also, the fact that the bonfire closest to the Bed of Chaos is behind an illusory wall is fucking bullshit. I'm so mad because I was only ever using the bonfire at the beginning of the level. I was running the entire way every time. Thankfully, I think luckily I got through Bed of Chaos without too much trouble. It killed me like 4 or 5 times, which, you know, I feel like is less than Bed of Chaos kills most people. Like, it just
that is quite reasonable. Yeah, because like I think I died against like the fucker like 20 times. It's just like, I just get randomly smacked. It's like, oh, that part of the floor falls. I should have known that. And it's like, wow, thanks, Dark Souls. Like, it's such an awful boss. Like,
thank you for giving me a game with very limited jumping mechanics and suddenly giving me a boss that requires me to platform with very precise timing. This is just such an incredible experience.
Shout out to Dark Souls 2 there, because Dark Souls 2 suffers from that a lot, where the platforming sequences are part of the game, unfortunately, and there's a lot more platforming sequences, and it's just like, well, I guess I'm dead again.
See, it's difficult for me to figure out like what I think the best one is, and like Dark Souls 3 was actually my first Souls game. I played it before I played Dark Souls 1 or 2 because I'd heard about them a bit, but I think Dark Souls 3 is weirdly more accessible because the controls are so much tighter. Like, even though the enemies are harder to kill and they have like such more difficult movesets, the way that it gives you like that omnidirectional rolling and like the better frame rate and stuff like that, especially considering Dark Souls 1, like, you need a mod to make the PC port work properly, you know.
Yeah, it was I remember setting up that mod because that's when I played it, and it was just like, it was even kind of bizarre just having to do that, and like no one has like, if you just install the game regularly, it won't launch, and it's like, oh, okay, that seems a bit bad.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Thank you very much, From Software, for thinking about your PC players. But
in fairness, they got it right for 2. They did. The PC port of that is significantly better.
Every PC port since Prepare to Die Edition has been fine. I guess they learned their lesson. Whether or not they will learn their lesson and then actually change Prepare to Die Edition or patch it so that you don't need a mod to make it work properly remains to be seen. But I'm glad that works. But I don't know. It's difficult because I appreciate each of the games so much, but I don't know. Each one is good for its own reasons. Dark Souls 3, I think that it has that like incredible circularity to the story, and it finishes off Dark Souls 1 and 2 with the Slave Knight Gale story, and sort of the whole idea of, instead of linking the fire and keeping the world going, let's just end it all and stop everything.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry. It came out like Dark Souls 3 came out 7 years ago.
I mean, I guess, but
sorry.
I mean, yeah. No, you're grand. It does effectively just end the series in terms of plot, which is actually like a very hard thing to achieve in that kind of world and setup of storytelling. Like, you actually end it. Like, I don't think we ever will get a Dark Souls 4. I think we're probably going to get like Elden Ring 2. Honestly,
probably
kind of weird.
That would be weird. Oh god, I can't imagine them making that much. That's the greatest thing about Elden Ring, is the fact that they just used the oh god, what is it, like the engine and everything from Dark Souls 3, and they were just able to use all of that groundwork to build so many enemies and so much world in that 3 years. Like, they made so much stuff. It's incredible how huge of a game it is, that if they made a second one, I can't imagine how big it would be. And that's why I'm scared of the DLC. Like, the game is already so huge. What more could they possibly add? They're just gonna
Well, I mean, point of comparison actually might be Breath of the Wild 2, which is coming out this year, has had a very similar kind of development, where it seems to be the case that it's like, oh my god, they spent so long making this, and now they're doing a sequel, and it's like, let's just take that and add on it. And now it's like, oh god, it seems like there's a lot happening here. So I mean, I imagine they'll go in that direction. Like, I'd be surprised if they didn't, because I feel like it would be like almost like shocking if Elden Ring was just a once-off. Like, I know Sekiro ended up that way, but it's like, I mean, I feel like with Elden Ring, with everything that's behind it, the fact that it's even their most successful game just ever, like, it just straight up is. Like, it just makes sense that they would follow it up, and it's just Elden Ring 2 or something.
I love, like, the surprise from FromSoft, where asked, like, how do you feel about Elden Ring's success? And Miyazaki was like, I didn't fucking know it was going to be this successful. Like, what? Like, I don't know why everyone's buying this game, but I mean, sure, go for it. I mean,
I just love Poison Swamps, man.
I just want to add more.
I want to put more in.
I was playing Elden Ring, and I was like, man, there has been a significant lack of Poison Swamps. And then I ran into the Lake of Rot, and I was like,
there you go.
Yep.
There they are.
Here's the Poison Swamp. And I love that there's that interview with him where they asked, why do you keep adding Poison Swamps? And he was like, I just like putting Poison Swamps in my games. I just think it's funny.
There's a great meme I've seen where it's like, it's him like it's Miyazaki saying, I love you, Poison Swamp. And then it characterizes Poison Swamp saying, I love you, Miyazaki. And then they kiss, and then he starts getting the toxic meter. So it's getting that blight town. Damn it, Miyazaki.
Oh god. But I don't know, when it comes to, like, I would probably say that I think overall probably the best product that they have made, I would still say, is probably Bloodborne, because I think
it's so good.
The only thing holding Bloodborne back is the technology, like the 30 FPS, but I would also say that the 30 FPS kind of adds to the horror in a weird way. Like, the character animations feel so much more weird and so much more difficult to contend with because of that limitation. And when it comes to crafting a mystery, when it comes to world design, I mean, we talked about Dark Souls 1 with, like, the Firelink Shrine elevator. Let's talk about Bloodborne with that Forbidden Forest ladder, where you're just in a random cave with these big beasts, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And suddenly you walk out, and not only do you find a ladder that takes you back to the very beginning of the game, you walk into the place at the beginning, find a letter that leads you to one of the biggest and best zones in the game, and like that. What is it that Maxwell said in his video about Bloodborne? He was like, accessing Canehurst Castle requires you to track down the field of corn in Ohio and track down Waldo, or something like that. Like, it's so impossible to find, but that zone has some of the best content in the game. And then, of course,
that's great.
The Old Hunters with that DLC, where it brings the story, just like the Ring City in Dark Souls 3, brings the story full circle, gives you access to all of these incredible boss fights. I mean, imagine just dropping Ludwig as a boss fight in a DLC and being like, yeah, he's at the beginning of it. There's more to come, but Ludwig is coming first, because with that music and how insanely fun he is to fight. I mean, I did my what is it? I played Bloodborne. I did on stream. I did like my arcane build, and I struggled a lot with Ludwig. When in my first playthrough of Bloodborne, I actually beat him on my second try. But then when I was playing on the arcane build, it took me hours to beat Ludwig. But with that music and with the atmosphere and everything, just getting through the DLC, I think I beat Orphan of Kos on my second try after beating.
Jeez, fair play.
Yeah, but after beating Ludwig after like 3 hours. It's a crazy game, and I love how
not
everyone...
that Ludwig for the few folks in chat. That's a different Ludwig.
Yeah, not streamer Ludwig. We're talking about
He's just
strange
in the game.
horse beast Ludwig,
horror.
horse creature Ludwig with the Moonlight Greatsword. Not streamer Ludwig, unfortunately. Although kind of an L on streamer Ludwig's part that he doesn't own the Moonlight Greatsword. I feel like that should be a part of his repertoire at this point, but you know, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge?
Oh Jesus. Yeah, I mean the DLC is crazy for that though. Yeah, because like Ludwig, he is just one of the best bosses in the game, just hands down. And it's just like, yeah, he's just the first one, and it's like Jesus, like it's pretty cool. Yeah, like I do live in hope that they someday PC port maybe, or even just 60 FPS version.
I would
like,
pray, because Sony, they've been doing so much with their PC ports. They ported God of War, they ported Last of Us, like everything has been coming to PC. Why not Bloodborne? Give us Bloodborne on PC, let us mod the game, let us have the game on Steam, 60 FPS, everything like that. Because I love the mods that I like mods for games that aren't supposed to be modded are great, because Minecraft mods are almost not entertaining anymore because they go so hard that it's just a part of playing the game.
It's overwhelming.
You'll download a mod. Whereas now with Sekiro, you'll download a mod and suddenly the giant serpent becomes the Thomas the Tank Engine, right?
Amazing. Like I love the random shit like that. Like I know Skyrim has a lot of that too. Yeah, have you played ever with like the randomizer mods and stuff like that? Because like those are genuinely so much fun. Like your weapon just swaps every 7 seconds is one of them. There's like swaps every enemy placement, swaps every item placement, and it's just like a chaotic mess to even navigate. I love that.
I've been loving watching. I don't know if you've watched Lil Aggie, who does like he began doing Sekiro speedruns, and now he's been doing Elden Ring videos, and a lot of it is like Elden Ring randomizer stuff. So one of my favorite videos of his, it was a stream where he beat Elden Ring. It was a randomizer mod, and he took the snow effect from the consecrated snowfield, where you can't see 2 feet in front of your own nose, and applied it to the entire game with a randomizer. So walks out of the beginning of the game, and the tree sentinel is the fire giant. And he's like, ugh, and then suddenly sees a giant fireball that does like 10,000 damage just fly out of some snowy cloud and somehow beat the game. My favorite part of it was when he gets to Rykard and the first phase, the God-devouring serpent, he walks in there and he's like, where is the boss? And he's looking around, and it's just some random soldier from Langdale just kind of stood in the middle, and he isn't even aggressive because his AI
He's doing his best.
His AI broke or something, so he just stands there with his little knife in his hand just staring at him, and he's like, yo, what's going on? And then he kills him, and the second phase is Placidusax, and then he has to fight him instead.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's
natural
just,
progression.
It's just like I love mods for being a way of like prolonging the longevity of a game, but with something like Elden Ring, or really with FromSoft games, it's like the variety of builds that you can have really do extend the game's longevity so much. Like I beat Elden Ring twice, and then I went back and was like, I want to do something with sorcery, or I want to do something with incantations, or I want to do something like this, and then suddenly it's like, okay, I beat the game normally with like a strength build the first time. Now I just want to use the Scarlet Rot Dragon Breath incantation to just one-shot every boss in the game. Or I want to use Comet Azure to one-shot Mog, you know, but like several levels before I should even be finding Mog. It just gives you, the way that Elden Ring gives you so much control is incredible, because having enemies be that difficult to contend with and then saying, all right, but here are all of these funny toys you can use. Just see you just have fun, buddy. Like, what is it going to do? I don't know. I'll give it a try.
It's arguably even a bit easier than just Dark Souls in that regard, because like, I mean, something I know with Dark Souls is like you come up against a wall eventually, and it's like you just gotta break down that wall. Whereas like Elden Ring is structured like, here's like 7 or 8 different walls, and it's like you can gradually get past one of them. You know, it's like just nicer in that regard.
And you could also stumble into a cave and suddenly you find Moonveil, and then suddenly you've got like this.
Oh yeah, then
weapon.
you just won. Like,
and then you've just won, right? Like
you are the Elden Ring now. Congratulations.
Congratulations, you have become Elden Ring. You've found Rivers of Blood, and now you can press L2 and beat the game at any speed that you desire. Whereas
easy.
You could be playing with any other weapon, and suddenly it becomes the hardest game you've ever played. That's kind of why I love the fact that Elden Ring has no. None of these games will ever have an easy mode, because the easy mode is in the game. You just have to look for it. And that's what makes it so much more compelling. It's not like a menu option. That's one of the things that I got really annoyed with, because I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft. One of the things that I got annoyed with after a while was that in Wrath of the Lich King, you have to unlock the hard mode, like, in a certain way within a raid. Like, you had to find some trigger for it. Whereas now, you right-click on your character profile and you select hard mode, and then suddenly the dungeon changes or the raid changes or whatever it is, and suddenly it feels like, I don't know if I really am raiding an enemy dungeon or whatever it is. It just feels like I'm kind of doing a MMO activity in order to gain more green numbers on my gear, and suddenly it becomes a lot less entertaining.
I mean, it's kind of funny you even mention that, because I know from dabbling a little bit in Rat Classic in my off time. They've actually changed that a lot, where they've tried to make the game easier. And it's like, despite being like Rat Classic, it's like, hey, you know all that raid gear that used to drop from the raids? It's like, now just a heroic dungeon gives you that. It's like just straight up, and it's like, oh shit, like that's a huge change that they've made.
And heroic dungeons,
it makes it way more accessible.
Heroic dungeons are easy.
I kind of thought about that.
I've been playing a bunch of Dragonflight, and like heroic dungeons are easy. Like, they're really not so bad. And the strange thing about WoW Classic is that I remember when it first came out, the whole point was that it was preserving like the spirit of the original game, where it was like social communication and difficulty in the world. And then they change it to Wrath Classic, and it's like, oh, we're just adding back the dungeon finder, and we're sort of dumbing down the enemies again. And it's like, well, now I feel like I'm just playing retail again. And, now for me, retail, because of all of like the dragon flying and stuff, has suddenly become a lot more interesting than Wrath Classic, which is kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is kind of mad how it's changed over the years. Yeah, like I can see some of it. Like I have not dabbled in retail in a very long time myself.
I don't blame you.
But I would have last played WoW when Rat came out, basically. So
yeah,
dabbling a little bit in Rat Classic has been kind of fun and nostalgic. Just a little bit in my off time, just with a few friends. But it's like, yeah, it's weird how they've changed it, even because it's not Rat Classic anymore. And it's like even the quests in the game. Yeah, this is I fully understand, like, maybe for the chat here, like this might be very niche, and like there's probably like 40 people here who play WoW and might only understand. Yeah. So like, well, we can move on to someone else in a moment, right? But I know that basic quests give you emblems of heroism now, which used to be the token that you have to complete a heroic dungeon and kill a boss for. You just get them by questing now, and you get a shitload of them too. And it's like it's huge how much they've changed it just because they want everyone to just experience the content more.
I mean, that was the thing with the level boost, right? Back in what was it, Warlords of Draenor, when they said like, okay, WoW has so much content from decades ago. We want everyone to experience the modern stuff. If you rejoin the game, you can just pay money to immediately have a max level character, and then suddenly you can just experience all the new stuff. But I remember back when they first announced that, it was still during Mr. Pandaria, like that expansion cycle, so suddenly brand new players who had never touched WoW before were at the max level with the best gear they could possibly get, and were suddenly just walking into raids being like, which button do I press to attack? Excuse me, why is this in third person?
How do I use my abilities? And it's like, dude, this is like the final boss of the expansion, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, we've been gearing up for this for literally months. Like, what are you talking about? And then they're just like, okay, so I click on this, and then I move my mouse down to the keyboard, down to the keybinds, and I just click on Fireball. Okay, I can kind of do that. And then they die, and they're like, well, all right, the game's kind of boring, but whatever.
Yeah, we actually, with our little band, we actually took a very classic experience. Like, we didn't buy a boost or anything. We just started from level 1 and just leveled up again. And it's like, even remembering, it's like, oh god, like old vanilla WoW, and like how archaic the quest design is.
Oh,
like, we got a bunch of quests where it's like, we had one where it's like, you're in the desert in Tanarus, and it's like, go halfway up Kalimdor, talk to this one guy in Winterspring, now go back to Tanarus, go back to Winterspring, and it's like, it got to the point where it's like, we were literally just flying between points, and it's like I would go to my computer, set up the flight path, go and make dinner for like 20 minutes, and then come back, hand in the quest, get back on the flight path, and then go eat dinner. Like, it's just like this is stupid. Like,
I think this is just. That's one of the things that I love so much about MMOs is like how they can give you, once you're invested and once you understand like I want this thing from the game, you will do anything. Like that's my experience when I've been playing RuneScape, is the fact that they will say, okay, well, you want to get this level in the game, like you want to get level 99, whatever it is, like you want to get 99 rune crafting, you have to spend 500 hours doing this random task. And I'll be like, well, all right then. And I'll just sit there
Let's go.
for hours, and I'll just sit there just clicking on the altar, clicking on my bank, taking out all of these items, just bup, and I'll go back and I'll be like, I guess this is the game. You know, if the game has like a good enough culture that people will encourage that, and if the game has a good enough reward at the end of it, then people will do anything, you know. So when... With that, like with RuneScape, for example, you have so many people who have like maxed accounts with these capes that they get for having maxed the account. You just think, well, I should be doing that. And suddenly it just feels worth it to sit and play this pixelated 1999 cow clicker for children for
Jesus.
for like 18 hours a day. Just be like, well, I've got to get my levels in. Like, you know, it's like how getting from level 1 to 92 takes the same amount of time as getting from level 92 to 99 because of how hard the experience curves upwards. And,
so yeah, I think even in Warcraft, like we worked out what the halfway point in terms of experiences, and it turns out when you were level 72, I think you were halfway to 80. Which sounds so stupid, but it's just because it ramps, because it's more and more. So it's like, yep, you hit the halfway point. Like, good job.
Listen, if someone has gotten to level 72 in this game, they've already got the determination to get to level 80. Let's just keep them playing for longer. Let's farm that subscription dollars from them.
Stupid. Like, it just boggles the mind, but it's good fun though. Yeah, it's like a good kind of off time kind of. I hop on, I do my cooking dailies, I do my fishing dailies. It's like, I'm having a good time. It's just like how I did it back when I was young.
Back in the old days when I used to log on. I remember way back in the day not understanding the game, but I had a level 80 character that I leveled up, and then randomly joining a guild and being like, guys, can I do Ice Crown Citadel with you? And they were like, okay. And I didn't know any of the mechanics. I died on every single encounter, and they kept rezzing me and being like, don't worry, it's fine, we'll keep you going. And I was like, cool. And I just kind of kept following them throughout the entire thing, and then one of them logged out, and we just had to sit after we beat a boss. And I just tried to act like I understood anything of what they were talking about. I was like, yes, no, I have... Oh, yes, I remember back when Vanilla first launched. Oh, Enixia. Oh, yes, no, I remember all of the times with that. And they're like, so what happened? And I was like, well, it's kind of the same thing that would have happened with you, you know, like, and then just pretending that I
wildly improv. I find that if you ever need to like kind of bullshit experience for a WoW boss, if you just say the mechanic is stay out of the fire, that's like half the bosses.
You're probably right. Move out of big circle. I think that
get out of the fire.
Having beaten the one Dragonflight raid that exists right now, it's either get in the big circle or get out of the big circle. That's kind of it.
That's all there is to it. Oh god, some things never change.
Some things never change. I have a really interesting question that I saw a while ago, but I'm really interested to ask what your interest would be in this. So. So a question for both of us. You're stuck in an empty room, and the only way to get out is to beat an undomesticated animal in a fist fight. The animal must be at minimum your body weight, or if below it, multiple animals weighed together to equal it. What animal do you choose to fight?
Okay, so you have to fight an animal. So basically, it's of your body weight, and it can either be stitched together. Is it stitched together or just multiple animals?
It's like, so let's say you can either fight like a wolf that weighs the same as you, or you can fight like a number of hamsters that, when put together, would weigh that same amount. So it's like either an army of hamsters or a wolf or something. Which animal do you pick in order to escape this predicament?
I'm trying to think. Like, for some reason, my first instinct was sheep. They'd probably just destroy you. They charge into you headlong.
They would.
I was also thinking a duck, but it would probably just like bite your arm off. It's like a more massive swan.
Birds are scary. I don't know what kind of damage beaks can do. Like geese, especially. They have those weird serrated teeth on the inside. I don't want to deal with that.
What would be the safest animal to fight? Like, I'm trying to think. Maybe just a sloth. I feel a sloth still has very sharp claws.
They do.
I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think.
That's the thing. I'm not sure if sloths are slow because they're slow or if they're slow by choice. Like, do sloths move slow because they're chill and they're just like, I'm just going to spend like 12 hours climbing down this tree to go and take a shit and then spend the next 12 hours climbing back up to go to sleep? Or are they doing that because they're relaxed and if you actually attacked a sloth, they would run away at great speed just because they've been saving up that much energy?
So yeah, they're actually like the fastest animal alive. You just rarely see them on the move. That's why they have to rest a lot.
It's so fascinating to think about like the combat ability of different. This is becoming the Joe Rogan experience very, very quickly. But it's very fascinating to imagine the combat ability of different animals because then we start to think about chimps, and we start to think about like the fact that they're the closest animal to us. But they're also 4 times as strong as human beings and have so much aggression that if you look at them wrong, they will tear your face off without a second thought.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, people are saying, like, Tearzu in the chat. I don't know if you've seen Tearzu, but
I'd love
very
Tearzu.
relevant channel
I love
here.
Tearzu.
Yeah. He would know best, and he would be able to pick, like a strategy going in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were saying fish in chat as well. Like, if it's a fish that weighs the same as guys, even if it's out of water and it's just flopping about, it would probably like shatter your rib cage and kill you.
If it flopped on top of you, you just wouldn't be able to move. Like at that point.
Sorry, someone said a good one, a capybara, because it's so chill. That's a very good answer.
Okay.
Because they just kind of exist. They're not really like offensive or anything like that.
The problem is that we need to beat them in a fist fight. It's like, let's say the capybara is chill, but it thinks that like its young are behind the door, and so if you try to go past the door, it will start to fight you. I don't know what kind of combat ability a capybara actually has, and also they're heavy, but they're not that heavy. I feel like you would need to fight at least 2.
Oh Jesus. They probably could destroy us, yeah. They're probably like saving their energy similar to the sloth. They seem so chill and calm because they freak out at a moment's notice.
I'm disgusted to see that someone in chat suggested a kangaroo. A kangaroo could punch you once and kill you. Kangaroos are so dangerous. Lose.
Kangaroos, oh, because I've heard stories from like an Australian friend of mine how like they just approach on the motorway and it's like almost like deathly silence. Like you just gotta let them do their thing. Like there's nothing you can do. It would actually destroy you. You gotta be so careful.
They just box you, and they got those big feet as well. I remember watching a video about what are they called? Oh, what is that one creature, like the bird that's blue and it's huge and it's so dangerous? It's not a chupacabra. What is it called?
Big blue bird?
Most dangerous.
Someone said Mothman. No, probably not
cassowary.
Mothman.
The cassowary from Australia. Apparently those have like those big feet that can just stab you to death in seconds. Like they'll just give you a big kick and you're dead.
Oh god, yeah, that'd be a fearsome one. I'll be honest, I think I'm too puny that I think no matter what animal I pick, I'm probably going to lose the fight in this elevator. Or I wouldn't have the heart to fight it, because hello to my friend Monty, she's just in the chat, but she actually suggested a guinea pig. But the thing with a guinea pig is so sweet that if I have to fight this in a fist fight, I'm just gonna feel awful. Like I'm like punching like the happiest animal on this planet to death in an elevator. I'm not gonna want to live with myself after that.
That poor guinea pig, you're just gonna... first of all, to equal your body weight, it would have to be many guinea pigs, and in order to beat them, you would just have to pick them up and throw them against the wall. I think the emotional damage you would sustain from winning that fight would be so much greater than anything that you would sustain physically, and so by the end of it, you wouldn't even be able to leave the door because you would be in so much pain emotionally that you would just lie down on the floor and cry.
Yeah, like you could win the fight, guys, if you pick like the cute, fluffy animal, but remember, you're going to have to kill this animal with your bare hands, so like think about the trauma. It's not gonna be great feeling after. It's like, yes, I killed that guinea pig. It's not gonna feel
Thank
that
God.
triumphant.
Yes! Made it out alive. All I had to do was murder an adorable animal.
Oh Jesus.
Oh
Oh,
God.
no.
I don't even know what I would pick. I feel like you need to go for kind of like a trick answer. Because something that equals your body weight, that's gonna be able to do some serious damage to you. People
saying a sponge.
Well, that's cheating. You can't pick a sponge.
Actually, counterpoint. I think a sponge would actually kill you in the elevator because there would need to be an awful lot of sponge to actually fill out the elevator. So you'd probably suffocate to death.
Oh no.
The sponge would probably kill you. Yeah, I don't think a sponge works there. There would need to be a lot of sponge. You wouldn't be able to breathe.
I pick another human.
Oh no.
That's the worst answer. Someone said jellyfish, but I kind of feel like jellyfish are so light that you would need to fight like 50 of them.
They'd sting you too.
They would. They would. If you can. Then again, if there's no water, you could just like hide in a corner and hope that they all die. But then also, if there are that many of them, what's to stop them from just like, I'm imagining a video game where you spawn them all on one spot and they just kind of spill out from one point. If any of them spilled on top of you, they would still sting you. So.
Oh God, it's not quite that, but we had an accident one time on my friend's Minecraft server because we captured like the entire salmon population of the server and put it in like a bathtub in my house on the server. And it got to the point where the salmon were actually causing so much server lag because there was like hundreds of these and they were all reproducing, and there was just like a mountain of salmon. That it started like repeatedly crashing the server because there was just too much salmon, and they were becoming like a danger to the server. So we had to do like a salmon call and just take them all out eventually. Just this unrelated little tangent there that just reminded me of. We overwhelmed it. Like the salmon population was too much. We captured all of them. Like the entire biome was just desolate after because we had just taken so many. Sorry, little tangent there.
Oh my God, I love it. That's like classic RT game. It's like, yeah, no, unfortunately the server was crashing, so we had to just eliminate as many salmon as we possibly could.
It was just too many. No,
when I think about that many salmon,
server.
I just think about like Half-Life sound effects, like the collision sounds they have in Half-Life or shit like that.
Oh jeez.
No, I'm with the science team. Or whatever it is.
Oh God.
So I just took Twitter again.
Okay.
Have you played Nintendogs on stream?
I have played Nintendogs on stream.
So have I.
I played it with my old original copy, but I left it so long that the save file wiped itself.
No.
So my dogs were dead. I don't know if everyone has had the trauma of opening Nintendogs and your dogs are actually dead. But they were gone. And so I had to start over, and that save file also corrupted apparently. Like apparently my copy is just too old. So those dogs are also dead now.
They're dead and gone. I played Nintendogs on stream a little while ago, and I had a little Labrador. His name was Dish Soap, and apparently you had a Shiba, and his name was Brexit.
Oh Jesus, yes it was. It's just a good name for a dog, right?
It is.
It's got a like if you hear the term Brexit, like that sounds like a dog treat or something like that, or a dog name. Like it works.
It does sound like a little biscuit, like Brexit. Yeah. That was.
You want a Brexit?
That was me when I was calling my dog. I was like Dish Soap, come here.
Oh no.
I wonder what was your dog like? Because I don't know how much the dogs in Nintendogs will differ. Because I had like the original DS version as well when I played it. Because I have this 3DS that's modded so that I can stream with it, but like it's a US version. I tried getting a copy of Nintendogs for 3DS, and it just because I forgot that they region lock, and so there was one stream I did where I tried playing it and then it didn't work, and so I just kind of awkwardly played something else the entire time.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, the region lock on 3DS is just really annoying.
Yeah,
like, it's so arbitrary.
Really
like that's why. It's not quite Brexit. But I remember one of my dogs on my original copy. Oh, God love him. It was like a beagle, and I think his name might have been Jack. And he was okay. The problem is anytime I had other dogs in that copy of Nintendogs with him, he'd always attack them. And he was so aggressive. And no matter how many times I tried to teach him, hey, don't attack your brother and sister, he just wouldn't do it. And it was quite sad because it got to the point where if I wanted to play with that dog, I had to put the other dogs in the kennel so that he just wouldn't attack him. And then when I wanted the other dogs out, I had to put him in the kennel and they could never be in the same room. And it was just like unnecessarily violent. Like, I don't know why. I tried to teach him to go easy on the other dogs and he just wouldn't listen. He kept attacking them. It was really traumatic.
So I didn't even know that could happen in Nintendogs. Like,
I didn't either.
They just have this personality that's like, I must kill.
Like he was, but like no joke, like he was really aggressive because like he had like a brother and sister. They were like Rover and Eclair, I think, and he'd just keep attacking them. And it was like, oh my god, like Jack, what are you doing? And I couldn't get him to calm down, so I just had to like separate them. Like it was just a bit too real for us. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have got that third dog. He doesn't sit well with the other ones. It was like too real for my like relaxing Nintendogs experience.
Again, it's like City Skylines. It's like, okay, I could build this new sector of my city. It's like, well, sorry, shouldn't have gotten that. The traffic is now fucked up and everyone is going to die of plague.
But it's just Nintendogs. Like, no one should be dying of plague here. Like, none of the dogs should be attacked.
Unfortunately, you have now entered into your home the Red Wolf of Radagon, and he is now going to unleash sorcery on every single dog in your house. There is no way out of this. You have no way of stopping it. The boss music stuff.
Boss music just plays every time the dog is there.
I always imagine just like the greatest, like the most grand boss music possible from any of the Souls games, like Placidus Axe's music or Slave Knight Gale or Medea or something like that starts playing the instant that tiny Shiba Inu enters the building.
Oh god almighty. Yeah, no, he was a monstrous little beagle. Like I don't know what was wrong with him. I don't know what his problem was, but I mean he's dead now, so
no,
there he goes into the Nintendogs void.
I played Nintendogs on stream very recently, but I did not play it for a while after that, and I'm slightly scared because I have not opened it since I played it on stream, maybe a month ago. I'm a little scared of what will actually happen.
So typically they tend to be starving and thirsty and also filthy. I can't remember what it's like for the 3DS one, but they may even be more realistic in the depiction of how hungry and filthy they are because you neglected them. Like Nintendogs has some real unforgiving mechanics. Like if you neglect them, it's like you know how have you ever played like Animal Crossing and you like ignore your villagers for like a month?
A little bit, yeah.
So it's like I mean like an Animal Crossing, like like if you don't play it for a month, your villagers you'll come back and your villagers will be like, where were you? You left us. Like Nintendogs has the same mechanic. Like I'm convinced, where it's like there was nothing. Like where did you go?
Chat, I'm happy to announce I have booted it up. Dish Soap is not dead. He is famished. He is parched.
No.
He is very hungry and thirsty, but he is not dead. We are fine. Dish Soap is alive and he has not run away. Thank God, this little golden
relief,
retriever.
He's just famished. He's just been starved for like 3 weeks.
He's just been licking
off my mind.
He's just been licking mold off of the different surfaces in the house, trying desperately to stay alive.
Jesus Christ. I think the reason they do that for Nintendogs is like it's a very Nintendo logic where it's like if you get a real pet, you need to look after it every day. But because it's Nintendogs, and part of that is like the escapist fantasy of, hey, I've got a dog, and you know I can take him for walks, and it's all a fun time. It's quite jarring and horrific. It's like, you know, like what if you just like you leave your 3DS to like, you know, one of your parents' houses or something like that. It's like, well, I can't feed him this week. And it's like you come back, it's like, where were you? Like I get the idea, but it's like it's unnecessarily cruel.
It really is. It's so terrifying. Like you get this game being like, oh yeah, I get to take my dog on walks, and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, wait 30 real world minutes before you get to take your dog on a walk again. Or it's like, oh, you were involved in something in your real life, like something happened to you, and you need to take some time away from your DS.
What's wrong with
well,
you?
I'm sorry, but the golden retriever you were raising, they're dead. They're dead now, and that is your fault because you had to take care of something in your real life.
It's like, it's just so cruel. It's like, it's so needless as well. Like, Miyamoto was just having like a power trip, I think, when they were developing it. It's like, I want players are going to feel an emotional attachment to these animals one way or another.
Fucking Nintendo Miyamoto was like, I want everyone who plays my games to feel pain. Oh Jesus! I've just come across a very interesting question. Random question, since both of you are gamers, what game would you recommend to each other?
Oh.
Now that's an interesting question because I don't know what we've played that the other person has not played because I feel like we have very similar taste.
I mean, the go-to for me would be Dark Souls 2 because I mean we were chatting about that the other day.
I have not beaten Dark Souls 2.
Played it.
I've got 8 hours in, but I have not actually managed to finish it yet. So maybe I should finish Dark Souls 2.
One that I would recommend outside of that. Have you ever played Trombone Champ?
I love Trombone Champ.
Okay, alright, you've already played it.
I beat everything about that game. You get all the cards. You do like the weird Mozart alternate boss fight.
It's
how do you make a rhythm game? How do you make a rhythm game with that much personality? I loved playing Trombone Champ. That was so much fun.
I love it just because there's this weird meta commentary on games in general as well in a fucking trombone game. Like it's not the place you would expect it to come up. It's a weird critique of Hearthstone for some reason. Like
with
here
the
we are. It's a
cards that you have to
trombone
collect.
game. Yeah, it's a weird critique of Hearthstone. Like here we are.
I think I watched your Trombone Champ video. At least one of the ones with mods, like like Through the Fire and Flames.
Oh, the custom songs.
Yeah, what is it, One Winged Angel that you have to play with?
Yes, that's so much fun. I'd really recommend it. Like the modern community for that game is just insane. Because it's one of those modern scenes where it's like, yeah, there should not be a modern scene for this game whatsoever. Like the tools for it are really like archaic and that, and like it takes a bit of work to even get anything running, but they've done an amazing job, and now that they've opened the gates for it, it's like, yeah, we're just porting everything into it. Like
you can play any song with a trombone now, thanks to these people who are just doing it for fun.
Oh God Almighty! Maybe another one I'd recommend. I don't know if you played this one. Have you played Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion?
Have I played fucking what?
Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion.
No, okay, believe it or not, I have no idea what the fuck that is. What is Turnip Boy Commits fucking tax evasion? It's
a wonderful little adventure where you are a turnip in this weird and colorful world, and the IRS wants your ass because you forgot to pay your taxes. And it's great, and I'd really recommend it. It's a fever trip of a game, but it's very sweet. It's very cute. It's got some very passionate devs behind it as well. Good time.
Let me look this up. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. A 10 out of 10 on Steam.
It's great. It's great. No, it deserves it. It really deserves it.
Oh my God.
It's like an acid trip of a game, but it's great, and like I'd strongly recommend it.
Mayor Onion, what do you mean? What? You committed tax evasion?
It's so stupid in its premise, but it's like a weirdly charming game. Like, I definitely recommend it.
I love it. It looks like a farming simulator, but with the added gameplay element of tax evasion. That's incredible. No, I'm interested. I would love to check it out.
Oh God, yeah, that one's good fun. Like it caught me very off guard when I played it.
Now, if I were to recommend a game to you.
Oh, here we go. Hang on, let me take a note on my phone. Hang on.
All right, yes, you're gonna want to write this down. I'm not sure if you'll remember the name. Have you ever played Five Nights at Freddy's?
Yeah, it was okay.
Have you played the? So you've played the first game.
I've played the first one. I watched a considerable amount of game theory back in the day when he would have been starting to do those kind of theories. Like I know he's done like at least 400 videos on it or something like ridiculous now.
He's done it
as the games have grown. So, feels like every other week there's a new one. But I would have seen like the first 3 or so.
What I experienced with FNAF is that I played the first one as a joke. I was like, Lamau, it's FNAF. and I beat the first game. I got all the way to the end, and it's not easy. Like, it's kind of challenging. And once you get to the end of the first game, like, you've kind of mastered the mechanics. It's kind of satisfying. And then you beat the first game, and you're like, well, I guess I have to play the second game now. And then you play the second game, and the second game is probably even more fun. And the third game has all of these hidden cryptic Easter eggs and mini games, and suddenly,
okay, so you're in on the FNAF train then.
Suddenly, you've played the first 3 games, all of which are quite short and pretty cheap on Steam as well, and suddenly, you're in. And then you play FNAF 4 with, like, all of those minigames, and you play FNAF 5 with all of the varied gameplay, and then FNAF 6 with that incredible ending and storyline, and then there's the VR game, which is genuinely scary, and Security Breach.
I've heard that one's horrifying.
Oh my god. I mean, FNAF 1 is scary anyway, because it's, like, sat in a room that you can't leave while you know strange creatures are coming for you, and all you can do is, like, shut doors. You can't run away or anything. It's weirdly like you just have to wait and hope that nothing goes wrong. Whereas FNAF, and then imagine in FNAF Help Wanted in VR, like seeing these creatures like right in front of your face. Like I've played so many horror games on stream, and I've never really been properly scared of like a desktop horror game. The instant I put VR on, I become a little baby. It's so difficult.
It's so much, yeah. Like Jesus, because I tried like a Walking Dead game once in VR, and it's like I had with one hand I had to like hold back a zombie that was like trying to bite my face, and like I was like on the verge of tears, like going to scream because like, oh god, this is just way too much. Like I can't, I can barely handle horror games enough, and it's like in VR it's another story. Like again, I played like me and my friend like Monty, like we did some VR chat kind of horror maps because there's a lot of those. And they're actually, like, incredibly creepy. Like, there was one where we were just going through corridors and that. And the vibes were just so horrific that I just quit the game. I couldn't handle it. Like, I just couldn't. Like, it was just too much. It's like, no, I'm actually going to shit myself if we keep playing this. So like, I had to get out of it.
I totally get you, because
too much.
I've played a bunch of... Because horror games are good content, and if you want to, like, I don't know, like, when you think about the business side of making YouTube videos, a lot of the time it's like, okay, well, you know, I could play Dark Souls every week, but then not everyone wants to see that. What everyone wants to see is me shit my pants, so I guess I'm gonna play a horror game. But then I remember one stream, I decided to play the FNAF VR game. I played it for maybe like 35 minutes, and after it I was like, guys, I can't do this. Emotionally, I'm not ready to have Freddy Fazbear in my face today. I am too scared. Like, there's this one minigame in the VR one you can play, which is like vent maintenance, where you go down in this like elevator that takes you down through a series of vents, and you have Ennard, who's this character from FNAF 5, which is like a weird set of wires with a little clown mask on it, and it's just sort of hanging around, and at some point it will come for you. And just at one point, I was just fixing the wires, look up to the top, see it like hanging over top of me, staring at me. I took the headset off. I was like, guys, I'm going to play RuneScape for the rest of the day. I don't care what you want to see me play. I'm done. I am completely finished with all of this.
Yeah, like sometimes you just need it. It's like, no, fuck this. Like, I'm out.
I'm done. I am 100% done with anything that this wants to be. That was a strange stream. I remember I was like, I tried playing Satisfactory. Not Satisfactory, Subnautica in VR.
Oh, that one is... Oh, that one would be... Did you get motion sick playing that one in
Unfortunately,
VR? That one's
I never managed to play it because it doesn't work with the Valve Index controllers. I think you need like Oculus or Vive controllers or something for that. But I remember booting it up and I couldn't get it to work. So we switched to FNAF. And then I got really scared, and so I just sat there and played RuneScape for like 2 hours. But I'd love to try Subnautica, because Subnautica I found scary while I was just playing it normally. You know, like just having something about being in a 3D space and having creatures fly at you, even if you're just on a desktop. Like it's pretty scary. Like in Satisfactory, like I know you've probably played that. Like the giant spider creatures. Like oh my god!
I actually haven't played Satisfactory for that specific reason. I'm very arachnophobic, and even actually playing Subnautica, just as a little side tangent, the crab squids in that game got me so bad that I installed a mod that deleted all of them from the game because I just couldn't handle it. Like, it was setting off like a primal fear. Like, it's just like, no, And it's like, even for Satisfactory, like, I know that's a thing, and it's the only real reason I've actually not played it. I've seen other people play bits of it, specifically when they're like in their factory and, you know, setting stuff up. But then when you go out and explore and stuff like that, it's like, okay, time to tune off.
Time to turn that off.
Yeah, time to go away, because like, I'm not going to be able to handle this.
I don't blame you, because I think it's the thing about an indie game is that when the experience with mobs and stuff in the world is less curated and they've just created a world with shit in it, sometimes what that can do is it means that the experience can vary wildly. And I remember when I played Satisfactory on stream, and I was exploring and I ran into one of the giant spiders, it scared me so much. I've played, what have I played on stream? I've played Amnesia, Outlast, Resident Evil 7, everything. Resident Evil 7 scared me a little bit. The other two didn't scare me at all. The spiders in Satisfactory gave me a fucking panic attack. I saw that thing coming at me. I genuinely was like reaching for Alt F4 to close the game, because it was just this big spider creature just like running at me so quickly. I'm not even arachnophobic. I don't care about spiders. That shit, that was scary for me. Like,
Probably just too much, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I cannot handle horror well, unfortunately. I'm a very cowardly man.
That's fair. It's difficult. I mean, even for me, where like I've played a bunch of horror games, some of them they do just get me. Like especially in VR, or playing something like Phasmophobia or whatever else. Like it reaches a point where the anxiety is just not worth the excitement you get out of it.
Like I'll try stuff like that and like dip my toes in it, just purely for the entertainment value. Like I did one stream, I remember, it was like Grounded. So like you're shrunk down to miniature size in like a back garden, and that has spiders in it that are just like, it would normally just be life-size spiders, but obviously because you're now like tiny, suddenly they're incredibly fearsome. And that game even had something where it's like there's an arachnophobia mode to like basically make some like disembodied jello monsters. But even with that, it's like, no, I know that's a spider. I just can't do it.
Every time you see one of them in your head, you're like, I know that would be a spider, and then your brain fills it in like, imagine if that was a spider, and then you get scared. That's terrible.
Like, I tried it even with Skyrim before, because Skyrim has awful spiders. Like,
I was just thinking the same thing. Have you played Skyrim VR?
Yeah. No, I haven't been brave enough to do it. Like,
that was me. I played Skyrim VR and I was like, this is great. And I was doing the tutorial. Suddenly you walk into the cave, giant spider jumps at you. I tore that fucking headset off. I was like, ah!
Too much.
Like the horror of it being in VR is so much more real than just staring at it on a screen. No horror movie or game will ever reach the experience of being in VR and seeing something like that in your face. It's like anyone who, I guess the thing about VR is that it, as a form of entertainment, it's so inaccessible because it's so expensive. Like, so many people won't really know what we're talking about. Like, you see a VR video on YouTube and it just doesn't really convey what it's like to actually be wearing one of those headsets.
Like, it's not quite the same. Like, it's an okay-ish representation, but it's like actually wearing it and like you have full vision and you can turn your head in that, like, you're fully immersed at that point. And like for horror games in particular, it's too much. Or even just giant spiders in Skyrim, it's like, even if you're not arachnophobic, it's just like, oh, fuck that, you know? Like, that's just horrible. It is one of those things that, again, like, because we were talking about things that become more accessible as time goes on. Like, I feel like VR is getting there. Like, I think we have a ways to go. Like, you know, like, I love my Index so much, but Jesus Christ, set it up proper. Like, it's $1,000, you know? Like, that's an investment, you know? But you get your bang for your buck, but it's like, you know, not everyone has $1,000 just like that.
That's the thing, is that it's $1,000, and also there aren't that many VR games, and a lot of VR games are just short experiences, you know. Like for me, my VR headset essentially just became a Beat Saber machine, you know. Like,
that's the best one on it though. Like Beat Saber is just the best game.
Beat Saber is incredible, but so many other games in VR is just like a couple hours of really good fun, and then you've used them all up. The only other game that I completed in VR was Jet Island. I don't know if you've ever played that.
Jet Island?
I think you would really enjoy it. It's like, so Jet Island, it's like a VR game where you have like Attack on Titan physics, where you're on a hoverboard with jet engines in it, and you have the Attack on Titan like grappling hooks, and you're just soaring around this, and the graphics are like PS1 era, so you're just soaring around this big island with PS1 graphics with this super strong momentum, and when you're wearing the hoverboard, you have no friction, so you're just shooting around this island, doing parkour along these ramps and stuff, and there are like 4 or 5 bosses you have to kill by like just parkouring around them and shooting into their mouths or whatever it is, and then you fight a final boss at the end. It's not a very long game, but I really, really enjoyed playing that game. And
I mean, that looks dope as hell. I would just get sick.
That's true.
I just get motion sick. Like, even from describing that experience, it's like, oh, Jesus.
Like, I never get motion sick, but Jet Island, like, playing it, I had to take a break a few times. Like, when you just shoot up into the air, you're flying through the air, you look down, and you feel like your body is moving at an insane speed. You're like, all right, I just need a break for a second. But that one's definitely fun. I guess the thing about... I agree with you. The thing about VR is, like, it's A, so expensive, and B, a lot of the experiences are so limited that what we need is, like... I think that the Oculus... What is it? The Oculus Quest? The one that doesn't have the sensors. You just kind of put it on your head and go.
Wireless one, yeah. Like, I mean, that's incredible in terms of the tech in that. Like because I remember even trying one of those out, and, like, the fact that there's just even no cable, it's so unrestrictive. Yeah, and it's just so easy to even access. I'd be shocked if all VR headsets don't try and copy that. Honestly, even with like the Index, I think there's rumors of like an Index 2 coming. Because I think it's been rumored for a while. It's always been rumored.
That'd be insane. Because the Index is already so good. I think the biggest thing with VR is like that screen door effect, where you've got like the weird sort of spottiness of the visuals. Like if you look at it in the wrong way, then, or if the headset doesn't quite fit you, or if you haven't got the settings right, then it can look weirdly sort of pixelated in a weird way. If something looked genuinely like as good as it would on like a 4K monitor or an 8K monitor maybe, or whatever it is, like you would get so immersed, especially with games that you get to play for longer periods. Like Elite Dangerous VR is a really, really good one, where you play with with a joystick, and you're just sat there in space, and because of the joystick, you don't have to look at like your keyboard or controller or anything, so you can just fly around for hours like in space, believing you're really there. And it's insane like how immersive it is, just because if that was taken a little bit further and the VR wasn't like... The biggest thing for me is the Valve Index. You wear it for more than an hour, it starts to fucking hurt. Like, it's so heavy.
Oh yeah,
it weighs down on your head.
Yeah.
I did this charity stream recently where it was like 24 hours, where it was like all of these big collabs and stuff to raise money for mental health, for like suicide awareness and stuff. My original idea was to... I don't know if you've ever seen the video of the guy who spends 24 hours in Minecraft VR.
I have, yeah.
I saw that video and I wanted to try that, but I thought there's no way I can do that, because that headset is going to start to hurt after 1 hour. I don't know how I would ever be able to do 24. If there's a headset that you can wear that feels light enough, people are just going to forget to take it off.
I mean, I think we're going to get there though, like, because I think that's where tech is just kind of moving. I think it does. It's just going to happen with VR, because like just the possibilities of it and the immersion are just kind of amazing. Even the stuff you can use it for. So one of these days we'll get our like Sword Art Online like dystopia. We're all trapped in an MMO sense as well. Can't wait for that. But like, it just seems inevitable. Like tech's gonna go that way, and it will become more accessible. I hope it does. Oh wait, what happened?
What happened? Oh, I think I was...
Sorry, my chat was freaking out just for a moment.
No, I was checking Twitter, and I think I clicked off of Discord where you're sharing your VTuber model, and so it just transformed into the grey Discord screen. So very suddenly you became a giant grey blob for a second, and everyone was very scared.
Oh, no, it's okay. We're still here. We haven't left you. It's all good. Yeah, VR, man. Like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's on the rise, and like I hope it just gets cheaper more than anything, so just more people can experience it. I think that's just the main thing it needs.
Me too.
You know?
It should be more accessible to more people, because right now what you've got, at least in the UK from what I've seen, is these VR arcades where like people can go in and play Beat Saber on a VR headset for like I don't know, like 15 minutes or something like that. You know, it's just like a regular arcade.
Yeah.
Which is something they can do to experience it for a little bit. The first time I played arcade, it was at a tech convention, I think. There was some college near my hometown, and they had like VR headsets that were debuting like military simulations or something like that. That was like, put the VR headset on and be on an aircraft carrier. And the graphics were bad, but just being in it, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna put you in a helicopter, and I was like, wow. And then the act of turning your head physically and seeing the back of the helicopter, I was like, oh god, I'm in it now. And it was like, even though the graphics were bad, I still felt like I was there. And now that you're playing like super graphically advanced games in VR, I feel like the instant we reach a point where you can put a VR headset on and forget that you're wearing it, that's when we reach that Ready Player One level where you can just dissolve into VR, and the only thing that will stop you is needing to eat or sleep or pee.
So we will get our Sword Art online. Like, it's only a matter of time.
I'm scared. I don't want to put my VR headset on and then get like, yeah, if you ever take it off, your brain is going to get annihilated. That's so scary.
I mean, like, I honestly, like, if I'm stuck in Warcraft or something like that, it's like, I'll just be like, that's it, that's my fate, I'm here for the rest of my days, I can make this work.
I can make this work. Just gonna make a new character, make myself as attractive as possible, pick the Argent Dawn server, go to Goldshire, and then I'm gonna be completely fine.
Imagine it's Sword Art Online, but you're in that server and just stuck in Goldshire. It's like, well, actually, I don't really want to go back to the real world. Like, this is great.
I'm fine now. You see a bunch of people dueling out front, and then you get a bunch of people, let's be honest, a bunch of very lonely European men who have made these night elf characters with these very slutty transmogs.
No.
And then suddenly they're just acting like prostitutes, and it's like, well, if I believe it's real, then maybe it is. And then suddenly you could just get involved in that.
There's worse places to get stuck, I guess.
Certainly. Maybe if they made Fallout VR, you could get stuck there in some terrible post-apocalyptic nightmare. Or you could wind up in World of Warcraft where everyone is pretending to be a beautiful woman, and then it'd be like, maybe I could pretend to be a beautiful man. And then all of a sudden, everything's fine.
You want to know what the game I think that you'd probably go the fastest in, which is quite unassuming? Animal Crossing. I think if you were stuck in Animal Crossing forever, you would snap and lose your mind, and just like start doing horrific things to your town, and like the poor villagers that live in it. Like, because everyone is so chirpy and positive all the time that it would just get sickening after a certain point, and it's like, I can't handle this anymore.
It'd be like Groundhog Day or The Truman Show. After like 2 days, you would be like, man, this is great. After 2 days, you would just lose your mind. I feel like that's why people say that when they added Isabelle to Smash, that it was like some headcanon that this was her stress relief, because living in the Animal Crossing world and working for the player villager was just driving her absolutely insane to the point where she needed to kill people.
The shit she takes in like just a standard game of Animal Crossing, like, it's just constant. Like, you're just badgering her all the time.
Speaking of Smash, I remember you brought this up earlier. Did you play Smash a lot? Who do you play?
I used to play Smash a lot, is how I describe it. Like, I still love Smash so much. I would have, like, I mean, I started playing with Brawl, so I would have played Jigglypuff, I think, in Brawl. Which is probably not a good time to play Jigglypuff. But.
No, but that was also around the time that you had a player like Hungrybox, who was, like, made Jigglypuff one of the best characters in Smash Melee. Like, in Melee, Jigglypuff was supposed to be just sort of like a little joke character, and then Hungrybox showed
most powerful character in the game,
potential, and now Jigglypuff is like top 3 in Melee, which is just ridiculous. I played a tiny bit in Brawl, but I only really picked it up in Ultimate, and my favorite character, I think my first main was Incineroar. And
oh god,
yeah. Have you seen? I don't know. I've been watching a load of like professional sets of Ultimate, and SkyJ, who is this Mexican player who plays Incineroar, has just been making so many waves, and everyone believed Incineroar was like a low-tier character because he's the slowest character in the game, but he's just got these few little tricks, and this guy has been doing so much with it, and I've been so invested in his arc as a player, and I've been like praying that one day he's just going to go on this massive run, and all of these top tiers are going to get beaten out by Incineroar, who's just this really slow wrestler Pokemon. And I love how hype he is as a character, because Incineroar will, if you hit any move, he will automatically taunt. There is no way of you turning this off.
It's like, yep, he's got you.
The end lag of every move, his animation is him being like, just doing some big taunt. And just getting invested in that as a character just, I think, powers you up as a player, and it's so much fun to do.
I mean, he seems like a fun one to play, yeah. Like he's definitely one of the more, like, really different ones. Like, I love all the random shit they just added for Ultimate and that, and, like, even all the returning characters they have. Like, I love, like, Villager in that game a lot as well, because it's just like, I would just like plant a tree endlessly, and it's like just try and kill them with the tree by just cutting it down.
Oh God, yeah, the villager.
He just plants a tree and just tries to annihilate them. Or it's like, even if you're like playing like fucking Steve from Minecraft, who's like the face of competitive to the extent he's been banned, I think, now because he's too powerful. Which is like so stupid.
That's the craziest part. Is that Ultimate had such a consistent meta, especially during lockdown, where everyone was playing online. Like the top 3 was Pikachu, Joker, Pyromithra. I think Pikachu isn't even top 10 anymore, and the main best character in the game is definitively Minecraft Steve.
It's Minecraft fucking Steve, like the ultimate shitpost of a character that you could possibly include in this game.
And the fact that his animations and the way that he's built is so accurate to Minecraft itself, like his taunts is him doing the little like Minecraft teabag or him eating a Minecraft steak.
But it's insulting if you die to him.
It's like, so bad. But then they've also discovered tech now where if Steve times an air dodge at the right time, he could just completely negate any amount of knockback he gets from any move. Like, you'll hit him with a full smash attack at 999%. If he air dodges at the right time, after he's been hit by it, he could just walk away from it. Steve just has these random mechanics that make him invincible to everything, and then he'll edge guard you. He can recover from the bottom of the stage. Steve can do whatever he wants, and no one is capable of stopping him.
Why is he this fucking broken? It's fucking Steve.
It's so stupid. Why is it Steve specifically? But also, isn't it so funny that it's specifically Minecraft Steve? It's not some anime character. It's not Joker. It's not Roy. It's not whoever it is.
Steve.
It's Minecraft Steve. And I feel as though, even though I do play Smash Ultimate often, I feel like I'm okay with the fact that it's Steve, because even if he's impossible to fight, bare minimum, at the very least, he is really funny. That is
it's so funny watching him kill people, because like you just half the time it's like they go into a minecart and then place a block and that gets a spike on you down, and it's like he just placed a block and then he's eating the pork chop. And it's like what just happened, you know? Like
it's like, oh yeah, he's
top level competitive play there. Like,
all the best thing. I remember watching a set where it's this one Ken player who's notorious for being very toxic, and this other Steve player is completely wiping the floor with him. Like it's a best of 5 set. They're on their 3rd game. The Steve has won twice in a row. The Steve wins this game. He wins the set. The Ken is down 2 stocks. The Steve is up 3. Every single time the Steve hits a move, he will take his blocks and build a giant L. And the Ken player is just fighting demons. You can see the camera on both of them, and every time it happens, he's like, like he's just trying so hard just to play the game, but the Steve will just build an F, or he'll build a penis or something like that, and there's nothing you can do to stop him.
That's so just like how like you just want to give up on your career if like that happened to you. It's like, well, I'm just resigning. Like how do you come back from that? Like fucking Steve from Minecraft's not only like, you know, like fucking 3 stocking you, he's constructed an F on the battlefield for you. Like how do you come back from that? Like you just don't. Like
you don't. If you get so it's like all of those Smash compilations. It's like career-ending spikes or career-ending kills. Like you just watch them. It's like, yeah, no, you really really can't come back from that.
It's just Steve constructed a penis. That's it. His career was never the same. He didn't come back from it.
You're out there genuinely trying to beat Steve, and he has the time to build an entire penis, and then he hits you with one move and you die, and the Steve does the little teabag taunt. The fact that also, if Steve hits you with his final smash, he will automatically teabag you at the end of it. Like, they built that toxicity into the character from moment one. There's no way that a Steve player, even if they wanted to play Steve, honestly, they couldn't. They don't have the choice.
Oh, God. Oh, it's so fucking funny. Love Steve. I'm glad it's him that has this notorious, like, you know, reputation or that, because like, oh, like Pyra Mishra busted from Xenoblade. No, fucking Steve. It's just Steve. You know, like that's how it should be.
I'm so glad that
if it wasn't Steve, it has to be like Wii Fit Trainer or something like that. You know,
just
like, it has to be
as long
like,
as
stupid.
It's something silly. As long as it's something silly, I'm fine. I mean, Bayonetta in Smash 4 was pushing it. Meta Knight in Brawl pushing it.
Oh, he was awful.
It was awful. terrible. I remember when I first played Brawl, I picked up Meta Knight because I didn't understand the game, and I was like, damn, this feels pretty good. I don't know why, but I'm seeming to enjoy this character a lot more than the others. And I look back now, after having not played the game for a while, and I'm like, oh, you know, it makes sense why when I played that game I was drawn to Meta Knight, because he was just completely busted the entire time.
Just absolutely fucking broken. Like, he's just destroying everyone.
The whole meta was just how well can your character counter Meta Knight? If they can, good. If they can't, F tier.
Oh, God almighty. Yeah, it's weird even looking back at that, because that was before they could even patch it. So it's like, well, Meta Knight's just busted. Guess we'll just try and fix it in the next game. It's like, you just have to accept that. Like, there's nothing they could do. It's a different world.
I've got one more really interesting question, because I remember earlier you mentioned that you had lived in Japan for a long time.
Yes.
And I pretty recently, in January of this year, visited Japan for the first time. And
oh, wow.
It's an incredible place, but the one thing that struck me about it, after having lived in the UK for many, many, many years, is that UK food is so bad compared to Japanese food. I just need to know, what is your favorite food to have in Japan, and what is your favorite experience with Japanese food? Because in the UK, most of what you'll experience is some chain restaurant that has food that's like kind of good, maybe.
Oh god, like yeah, just to even like hammer this home for the guys in chat, like even like the fast food equivalent in like Japan, you'll pay like €8 for it, and it's of like an astounding quality, and it's like a perfectly cooked like bowl of noodles or something like that. Like it's an insanely high standard. I'm trying to think what like the top one would be. Like my comfort food when I was there was katsudon. There was a lovely restaurant in Ueno, just kind of overlooking the main street, where I would just I would go there with my laptop, and just like, at the time I was like working on a few scripted videos that I used to make for TF2, and I would just kind of go there, have my dinner, and just kind of chill for like a few hours, and just kind of like people watch a bit, because you got a great view. It was right at the entrance to like Ueno Park. I can't remember the exact name of the restaurant, but it's like you got a gorgeous view, and it's like a window side seat, and I would just kind of get like, they had like a brilliant just like katsudon that I would just dish. That I would just, if I could, I would just get it like about once a week or something like that, because I just loved it so much. It was like dirt cheap as well. Like, we're talking like it was like a tenner for this meal, which is just like insane.
I mean, and you got to, because that's my experience with like sort of less expensive restaurants. You tend to kind of like, it's sort of get them in, get them out. Like, staying in there for a long time and enjoying your time there, like that's the kind of thing that I would associate with an expensive restaurant.
The thing is, I mean, in a lot of them, they just don't really mind if you're just hanging around, and you just order like another drink or whatnot, you know, as you go, and it's like, you know, it's fine. Like, you're paying customer. That's what I mean. That's how it was for me. Like there was a good few cafes. Like, I hung out in Ueno like all the time when I was there. But like a lot of the time, I just bring my laptop, or even just bring my Switch, and it's just like, I just feel like playing some games. I just have my lunch and just kind of sit down for like 2 hours, and it was just a lovely chill experience. And I just get like kind of more tea and coffee and stuff like that while I was there.
And that's like it's incredible, because that's like the thing about it. When I order food or I go to a restaurant in the UK, a lot of the time I'll walk home and I'll be like, God, why did I eat that? Like, it might have been good, but it'll just fill you with so much just grease and fat. In Japan, like when I went to the few like not too expensive like corner shop ramen joints, like the quality of the food and how much just how full and happy you would feel, and how tasteful and full of MSG all of the broth was. Like, I would walk away from that feeling like that was the greatest food I've ever eaten. It's just a random ramen joint like on the corner somewhere. And then I remember our manager took us to this sushi restaurant in God, what was it? Roppongi, I think it was in. And it was this like 7-course sushi.
7?
Yeah, like a set menu where you get like 7 mini courses of sushi, and it begins with like radish tofu, and you eat that. It's like, well, that's fine. And me, being from the UK, I do not like seafood at all. Seafood is like the death of me. If I have seafood, usually I feel ill. I remember when I was living with my roommates during university, one of them made ramen and put some sheets of seaweed in it. I had to leave the fucking room because I hated the smell of it so much.
Ooh.
I go to this place and they have seaweed, they have seafood, they have crab cakes. Second course is this little like seaweedy broth with a crab cake in it, and I smell it, and I'm like, oh my god, there's no way I'm gonna eat this. I take a little bite of it because I'm like, I'm in Japan, I've got to try something new. I take a little bite of it, and I'm like, wait, I'm like the kombucha girl with the whole just no. Well, and I start eating it, and I'm like, actually, this isn't half bad because Japanese fish are such greater ingredients. The same thing with egg yolk. Like, you have raw egg in the UK, you're probably gonna get ill. Whereas in Japan,
you're done for.
It's like a normal dip. Like, you go to get yakiniku and you dip like your beef in raw egg, and it's just this incredible umami flavor. And surprise, no, you're not gonna get ill. It's a normal flavor for you. It's ridiculous just to get used to, and I went through that whole sushi course having like yellowtail and proper sushi with shrimp and squid and everything, and suddenly all of this food that I never would have enjoyed had it been from my own country, I suddenly was just a big fan of, and now I feel like I'm open to the idea of trying weird seafood like caviar or whatever it is, because Japan proved to me that it doesn't have to be terrible.
I mean, that's great though, yeah, because like, yeah, I be the same, where it's like I'm quite sheltered with a lot of stuff like that, where it's like, no, I don't really know. I'm still very reserved on seafood. Like, I do love some good sushi, but I mean, but my mum gets deathly sick with like a lot of seafood, so I'm just like, I've had it instilled into me from an early age. It's like, just be careful. But it's like, yeah, I mean, like, the standard of food is just like, it's so hard to describe. Like, it's just of such a high quality. Like, I don't know if you would have went. I mean, did you ever stop by a Saizeriya when you were in Tokyo?
Stop by a what, sorry?
Saizeriya.
No, I don't know.
Basically, Saizeriya is like cheap Italian food. It's like pasta and like spaghetti and shit. And they have joints everywhere, and it's like, we're talking dirt cheap. Like, you can get like a pizza for like 400 yen. Like, even that pizza, when it's like at 400 yen and it's so cheap, it's shockingly good. It has no right to be as tasty as it actually is. Like, it's insane. It's just a really high standard, like, just everywhere.
That's terrifying, because I mean, in the UK, the best example of like an Italian restaurant that's all over the place is something like fucking Zizi, where there were like, I think I looked it up, there were like 29 of them in London alone. And it's like this watered down version of Italian food where all of the servers don't care about you and they're being paid terribly, and the people who are cooking there are just loading shit off of a truck, like a freezer truck, and they're heating it up and all of that kind of stuff. And even then, it's not terrible, but that's like, a lot of people in the UK, that's their understanding of what Italian food is like. And then you go to a restaurant that actually cares about its ingredients and cares about the way they make the food, and it's just a complete revelation. I mean, that's
crazy.
It's so difficult to find food that's made with love, because especially in London, you have so many restaurants that are just chains, where it's all of the employees are just people, students or whoever, trying to just make enough money to live. And so they don't give a shit about service. They don't give a shit about like actually giving a good experience. They just want to survive, and that's not their problem. That's the problem of the the business that employs them.
Thing.
Right?
Yeah.
But then you go to Japan, where so much food is made with such genuine passion, and like when I flew back last time, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready to go back to the UK. I feel like it's gonna be. I'm just gonna go to some restaurant that I would have loved previously. Like, I remember my coworker in my wave, Shu, who is lives in America but is Japanese. Like, when he came to visit me in the UK, I took him to like a ramen restaurant in the UK, and he tried it, and he was like, yeah, it tastes like the UK. And I was like, what do you mean? This is wonderful. And then I went to Japan, and I was like, oh,
tastes like the UK. Like, oh, it's got a real UK flavor. Oh god. I mean, I'm thankful here in in Ireland and that, like, we're a bit better with food. Like, we get the heartiness of it right. In general is how I would describe it. But we do also have some like weird Irish takes on food. Like, we have this weird tendency where it's like, we'll take a food from like from just another region, and we'll kind of tweak it in a way where it's not quite what they intended, and it's suddenly an Irish delicacy. Like, one of our most popular foods even here is the idea of a chicken fillet roll. I'm sure you might even have those, like probably in the UK and that, but it's basically French baguette, and instead of like beautiful French baguette where it's like served with butter and like toasted, no, stuff it full of breaded chicken and like a bunch of all your sandwich fillings, and just serve that. It's good to go. French culture, but in Ireland. We have like another one as well where it's like, oh, we had a great one that we did where it's like, I've only heard of it here. One of my friends introduced me to it, but it's called a Rappo, and it's
what?
sold at like a Rappo. So this is served at like a Chinese restaurant here, and it is basically a burrito, but they basically fried the entire thing, similar to like a spring roll. So it's like spring roll burrito stuffed with rice and chicken, and it's like a $5, and it weighs as much as your head. Like it's a massive thing.
That just reminds me of that one bit from The Simpsons when Homer takes like an entire plate of spaghetti and meatballs and condenses it into one bar.
That's how
he takes one bite and he just is like, picks up the phone. Hospital, please. Like I can't imagine eating something like that after having just deep fried that much.
Oh no, but it was so good though. It was so good, man. Like
God. That's terrible.
I can't adore, like this is Ireland's take on like food and that. Like we have another one that it's like we have one called the spice bag, which is an Irish delicacy where it's basically it's a bunch of chips, it's a bunch of shredded chicken, it's a bunch of peppers, all doused in spice and tossed into a bag. And it's a spice bag. And it's shockingly tasty. It has no right to be as good as it is, but I love it. Like it's really tasty. That's really well done.
That does sound really good. I definitely need to try that. I remember I went to Ireland like a good sort of maybe 18, 19 years ago with my family.
Oh, Jesus.
And I don't think we really tried much of anything there. I remember there was a Ferris wheel we went on called the Jubilee, and that was about it. Like it was some tourist place. Yeah, and my dad was like,
Jubilee's still standing, Jesus.
Yeah, my dad was like, would you believe it? And I was like, oh, clever. And that was like the one place I've been to in Japan. It was just by the beach, and like that was about it, really. So I'm definitely curious about the kind of food that's on offer there.
I mean, if you're ever in Ireland again, just give me a shout, sure, and I'll show you some of the pubs and sites.
Ah, very, very
You're
good.
welcome. Go on now.
I mean, that's like the one thing that I think the UK does well is pub grub. You know, just getting like, you know.
I mean, it's hearty meals and that. I mean, we very similar to that, and that where it's like, yeah, give me some bangers and mash, and it's like it's actually it's a hearty meal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's something we do well here too. But like I feel like still in comparison to Japan, it's like, oh god, like we've a lot of ground to catch up on. Like we're getting there, but not quite. Like
not quite.
It's gonna take a while.
I mean, also the other unfortunate thing about like this is what I say about all UK food, or at least like food in sort of Britain and London, is that it's so difficult to find an independent eatery. Like so many places have just been replaced by chain restaurants. It's like I was saying that there were like 29 ZZs in London instead of there being 29 different mom and pop or family owned pizza restaurants where they have their own passion for food. And it's the same thing with even with pubs. Like you've got Wetherspoons and you've got Green King and you've got Young's and so many different franchises that will buy up free pubs. And suddenly when you're out and about in London and you're trying to figure out like, okay, where do I go to eat? And you're like, oh, I'll go to a pub. There's like a good 60% chance you'll walk into a pub that has identical food to a pub you went to the other day, and all of that food was delivered on a freezer truck in the morning, was like boiled in a bag, and then served to you at the worst possible quality. And so like how do you find something good? I mean, finding a unique pub with great food is fantastic, but it's like rare now. You know, it's so difficult to find. Like I feel as though the careers that we envision having passion for them is stuff like the arts, you know, film, TV, I guess what we're doing, like we have a passion for what we're doing, but a lot of the time the perception with food is that people who work in food do so because they have to. Like the idea of someone preparing food or working in service with passion is like really strange, and that's such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't blame that as well on the people even working there.
No, not at all.
You know, it's just they're not just not being paid enough for what they do. You know, it's really unfortunate.
It's undervalued as an industry. And I remember very recently I made an impulse decision when I needed to take a break from streaming that I decided to go and take a break and go to America. And I randomly decided I'm gonna fly first class. I was like, I've never done this in my life. I decided, you know what? Whatever. I'm just gonna do it. And I've ruined flying for myself because it was such a luxurious experience where it's not just the seat, it's not just the food, it's the way that the people at the front are people who are paid well, who love service. They will take so much pleasure and have so much passion for recommending you the right wine to go with your dinner and for making your bed for you and everything. And suddenly you experience like, damn, the service industry could be this wonderful thing with everyone who works in it having so much passion for just doing wonderful services for the people who engage in that industry, but instead they're paid terribly, and most people who work in service are just doing so purely to survive. They hate their job, and the people who they work for undervalue the work that they do, right?
This has gotten quite heavy. Like,
right?
It's like, I mean, what's your best food in Japan? Oh, jeez. No,
what's your best food in Japan? Though. The service industry is undervaluing everyone who works for it.
Jesus. Oh, God. No, I mean, it's a dreadful shame. Like, you know, just pay people a fucking living wage. Like, go on. Like, everyone could use a bit more money in these economic times. Like, just give it to them. Oh, Jesus.
We shouldn't need stimulus checks. What we should need is for everyone who works any job to get paid a good amount of money for what they do.
Is how I will fix society.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. Random virtual man PNG. Listen to the way that I would fix these problems. I know best.
Let me tell you another thing about society, like us two VTubers here.
I don't even exist in society. I just exist online. I'm just a set of line art and coloring. I don't exist in the real world.
People saying you'd get my vote. It's like...
Of course I would, yes. I've gaslit you into thinking I would be good at running anything.
Oh, God almighty. Dan is a VTuber confirmed. Oh, God. No, I mean, I can't deny it if you're saying it on this stream, right? There's some damning evidence against me.
You have dived too far in so far, I'm afraid, and now there's no way back out. You're a VTuber now. You'll have to relinquish the prison of flesh and become virtual.
No. They'll never see me again. Like, I'm good because I'm at a convention like in Ireland, like even tomorrow, and it's like it's just gonna be like a monitor now. Like they're not gonna see me. It's just this is all it's gonna be.
You're gonna appear like the hologram from the Power Rangers. What's his name? And you're just gonna show up in the middle and be like, "Your mission is to hunt down the whoever it is." I haven't seen Power Rangers in a long time.
Oh Jesus.
Oh god. But anyway, it's been a long ass time. It's been about 3.5 hours, and
oh Jesus, it has been.
It has. That has passed so quickly. I am really hungry, and I need to go and take a piss. So I feel like this might be a good time to sort of wrap this up. But do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you'd like to share with anybody?
No, I mean, just thanks for having me. You know, this is genuinely good crack. Like I had a lot of fun. Like I hope everyone in chat did too.
Yeah,
it's been good.
It was an incredible experience for me as well. You were so much fun to hang out with, and going into this, I was obviously like very nervous because you're a YouTuber that I used to watch a lot and still do to an extent. And getting to hang out with you was like a real pleasure, and getting to just chat and nerd out about everything was incredible. And it just you know getting to introduce your VTuber model was an honor, and getting to just chat about everything was so much fun. And I hope we get to collab again soon. You know, if you have any idea for a game you want to play, like I'm always down for it. I'm always looking for stuff to do.
Absolutely be down. Yeah, that'd be good crack, honestly.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. I am going to go and find something to eat for the evening. So we're going to log off now, but thank you everyone in chat for coming. It was a really, really wonderful time, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Do you have anything that you want to, if there are anyone in my chat, is there anything you're doing tomorrow or in the next few days that you'd like to ask them to check out? Or I
mean, it's all good. I mean, I'm playing games. Like existing in the flesh tomorrow, I guess.
Check out twitch.tv/RTGame. Check out YouTube/ I guess C/RTGame, whatever the URL is on YouTube. You know this man. You know how to find him. Just Google RTGame and you won't be far off. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. This has been episode 8 of Under the Table. Thank you very much, RTGame, for joining me, and thank you very much, everyone else, for watching the show. I'll see you all again another time when I figure out who else that I have the balls to ask to join me. Thank you, everyone. Good night! Woo! Bye-bye!